ownership. We didn't do it, but the approach, the process to it, you can't ask for any more from the guys. So I thought they gave it everything they had throughout the season. Obviously we didn't achieve that, but you can't take away from what they did. And, this is the price you pay for trying to go after something, and that's how it goes. But I'm really just thankful to the guys, for who they are as people and what they've done as players, what they've done as a team.
Robert? Joe, now that you're on the other side of it, just what was the emotional toll of this series, the way it went with giving up big leads at home, and then obviously we got punched with Tatum midway through. What's the emotion kind of flowing through?
There wasn't really, it wasn't really much emotion there. It was that's just the way it goes. You can't have an expectation that a series is supposed to go a certain way. Obviously, losing a player to that type of injury was tough, but that's part of it. And you move on. You move on as a team, and that's it.
Joe, you've talked a lot about champions not being able to get out of the second round. You guys were, cruising along, 60-win season. You got through that first round. It was tough, but you got through it pretty quickly. What is it about the second round that all of a sudden everything seems to just change? Almost, let's say, it looked like a different team, but a lot of things change.
Oh yeah, I think that's what we'll spend the summer looking through is the differences that would have that, but that's obviously a psychological hurdle over the last 7-8 years now, and so spent time studying that this offseason. Just wasn't able to get through that hurdle.
Similar to that, Joe, what stood out about the challenges this year when you look back on it specifically? What is kind of that hurdle you felt like that you guys
I didn't think we couldn't get it over until this round, and so that's obviously something we came into the season having an understanding. I think it's 5, 6, or 7. It might have been 5 or 6 now, 7 of the champs from the last year haven't made it, and so you work to put in parameters, psychological, mental toughness parameters, things you talk about it, but at the end of the day, there's just as many teams wanting to win, and so you got to execute, you got to do all those things, and to me, it's not about our guys. They did everything they could. You got to tip your hats off to the Knicks. They played a great series. They've been great all year. Tibbs is a great coach, so you got to tip your hat off to them.
Joe, you talked about how many things have to go right to win a championship.
Yeah.
Plays, momentum plays throughout the season. Do you feel like there's anything different about this year's team from last year's team, or was it more just kind of those moments, those winning moments that you had last year you weren't able to win these playoffs?
Yeah, that's a good one. I didn't see anything different. I saw something better. I saw throughout the season our guys had the right mindset and the right process towards going after it. You obviously it's not going to go the way you want it to every year. I like the way we ended it. You just ran into a great team in the second round. And they got the best of us. But like I said, to me, it's more about the mindset and the process that the guys had throughout the season. I thought they gave it everything they had. I thought they really went after it, trying to achieve something that's obviously extremely difficult. I thought they went after that, and when you go after something, this is the price you pay.
Gary Sack, Jared. Did you see it all, the fatigue? Did you see, this team, before you got here, had been to the conference finals. This core has done a lot, but it just seemed like tonight was the night that the gas tank ran out. Did you see that, not even tonight, but just throughout this series, did you see, as much as you didn't want to maybe admit, okay, like we don't have what we had before?
No, I did not. I did not see that fatigue. Obviously, I saw that tonight a little bit, but I didn't see that throughout the season. I didn't see that throughout the series. No.
Joe, just in your view, what caused tonight's game to play out so much differently than the first 5?
You got to tip your hat off to the Knicks. They outplayed us. They played better. I'm happy for Tibbs. He's been coaching for a long time. To me, that's the biggest thing.
That's the biggest thing.
You pay your dues. You put forth everything. That guy's a lifer, man. He's everything a coach is all about, and he deserves it. So, I think it's more about that, and they deserve it as a team. And you got to tip your hat off to them.
Joe, for years up until last season, this team had such a penchant for getting big leads and then had trouble holding on to them. That's part of the natural flow of the game. But these first 2 games in the series, you guys blew those big leads. What was the accomplishment, I guess, of building a team maybe up until the series that was able to build big leads and hold on to them? And then what was so difficult about it in this series?
I mean, I thought that just the Knicks made huge momentum plays in those things to take advantage of that and keep them and be able to bring themselves back into the games. And, you know, all those things that you talk about, end of quarters, start of quarters, momentum plays of offensive rebounds, you know, they made all those plays. And, you know, those are the things that regardless of if you work on them 1 day, 2 days, 2 years, 3 years, there's stuff that you got to retool every single day. And those are the habits that, you know, impact games, as you saw. They can impact games, they can impact a series. So those habits you have to commit to like every single day, all the time, every year.
Final three, Adam B. Roger.
You said a couple times, you know, this is the price you pay for going after. Is that feeling the weight of being behind it, or what do you mean by the price you pay?
No, I mean, if you're going to be in the arena and you're going to be, first of all, if you're going to be coaching for a long time, you know, you're going to have a lot more probably heartbreaks than you are joyful moments. I think if you look at the perspective, and that's just how it goes. And so when you step into the arena and you go after something, that's how it goes. So it has nothing about do the weight of it or anything. It's just, you know, most coaches, the ratio of heartbreak to success at the end of the year, you probably have more of those. If you're going to be in it for a long time, you can't expect it to go the way that you can't expect it to go your way. You can't expect it to go the way you want it all the time. You know, that's just part of it, and you have to be able to accept those both of those things. And you know, that's the arena.
Joe, offseason obviously naturally brings changes for the team. You guys had a special opportunity this year, having most guys back. How would you just reflect on what this group over the last 2 years, what you guys were able to do, you know, just having this group together?
Yeah, like I said, I told the guys in the locker room, one of the honors of my life would be able to coach this group of guys. So you go down the list, every one of these guys is a champion, a warrior, and they've done a lot of great things in this league. And it's an honor to be able to share a locker room with them and you know, be next to them on the court and be in the arena with them. So I'm grateful for that. And to me, it just shows who they are as people and who they are as players. But that's really what it's all about, is those guys. You know, they came in, we had a legit shot at it. And, you know, they gave everything they had to try to go, but you know, we ran into a better team.
Final question, Jay.
Obviously, Jason's looking at a long rehab. Does it hurt more knowing that by the time he comes back, things could be changed, the roster could be changed? This realistically might have been the last chance for this group as a team. And then moving forward, how you guys have to respond to that, and what weight will the rest of you guys have to carry next year?
I haven't really thought 1 second of that. More just focused on the guys in that locker room right now and grateful for the effort and what they put through on that, and that's really all that matters.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks.
And that was Joe Mazzulla. I am John Zannis. This is Jimmy Toscano. The Celtics absolutely just, you saw it. I don't even want to say the score. Should I say the score, Jimmy?
Don't say the score. Wait. Run the open.
I will, but you know what happened.
I don't even want to see the score.
119 to 81, and it wasn't even that close.
No.
Celtics go down. That was Joe Mazzulla. We'll be hearing from more people from Madison Square Garden, including Bobby Manning, Noa Dalzell, who will join us in a little bit. But for now, it's just you, me, Toscano, and a chat that wants blood now.
I'm so sorry for everybody.
And that's what we're looking at right now. People here are out for blood. We'll take your pulse here and what you're thinking after the Celtics.
I got to check to see if I have one.
One of the most embarrassing losses in playoff franchise history. Celtics lose to the Knicks 119-81. The Knicks win the series. The Celtics season is over. They will not repeat as champions. The Garden Report officially begins right now.
Hard Hat's all about showing up to play hard, doing what it takes to win.
If you want to cement legacy, win another.
He's your third center.
You don't want to pump him up too much, but it's hard not to.
This is maybe the most I've ever agreed with you.
Cut the music.
Did something else happen? Tell me something. It's like, I was hoping coming out of the open, something would be different.
No, it's not a bad dream, John. It's reality. This is our Friday night right now. I said this to you in in the text. This is about the worst case scenario. This is the worst. If you were going to go out, fine. But this is about the worst way you could have gone out. After the performance you gave Wednesday night, you know, John, they reel you back in. They make you believe again. They make you feel like they're playing with a little bit of some inspiration behind them. And you know what? Maybe this team is good enough to beat this Knicks team. The Celtics team can go to the Eastern Conference Finals and can, you know, compete with the Pacers. And who knows? They move the ball. They play better without Jason Tatum. They're a better team without him. The ball doesn't stick. It moves around. They hit shots.
Luke's your starting center. Look at what Jaylen Brown can do when he gets to run the team. Everyone shut up. Okay?
Wrong.
I'm not mad at you. I'm
not mad at you either. I get it. I listen, I see what happened. Little false hope right there. There's gonna be fans that say, "Oh, I don't care. They won it for Jason in Game 5." No, if you could win it for Jason in Game 5, you can win it for him in Game 6. You can win it for him in Game 7. This team had completely different way about them at the start of this series, starting in Game 1 of the series, that they blew, followed that up with another Game 2 that they blew, and they were gonna lose Game 4 before Jason Tatum got hurt. They were on their way to losing that Game 2. So this isn't even about Tatum. This goes beyond that. Something happened to this team. I don't know if it's going to come out after the fact. We know injuries. That's one thing that we all can see. We know that Porzingis is not himself clearly. We know that Jaylen Brown is dealing with something. We know that Drew Holiday missed some games with a hamstring. So we know, at least to an extent, that everybody's dealing with something. Still feel like the Celtics left a lot to be desired in this series against the Knicks. There's a reason that every talking head had the Celtics in a landslide. There's a reason that Bobby had him in 4 games because he's the Jinx. But point being, John, is it even with the Tatum injury, and again, that's a whole nother discussion that we'll have over and over and over again. But it just didn't like again, I'll go back to just the way about this team, the way that Game 5 aside, this did not look like a connected basketball team. This did not look like a basketball team that offensively played with any purpose and defensively played with enough effort. And that's what defense is primarily, most of it is effort, right? It's just, are guys willing to get down and get dirty? Are you willing to put the hard hat on, as I say in the opening of this show? For whatever reason, whether they're tired, whether they're worn out from the last, 150 game plus, going back to last season, whatever it is, John, this was not the team on paper that we saw for the majority of the regular season. And you saw it tonight. The shots looked flat. Every time I looked,
they
were gassed. Every time I looked, though, the Knicks were just taking it to them. Completely just taking it to him, beating him up, bully ball, getting to the hoop. Josh Hart looked like, Superman out there. We're talking about friggin' Hart, like we're not talking about Giannis, but this Knicks team, they caught like something and they just rolled with it. Joe Mazzulla alluded to it. The momentum that they got in these games, they were able to capitalize on. Never felt like the Celtics did that. Never felt like the Celtics had that mojo about them that the Knicks had in a number of these moments in game. Tonight, it was all Knicks. I mean, after halfway through the first quarter, I don't even think the Celtics had a pulse anymore. But even leading up to that game, it just felt like the Knicks took advantage of everything the Celtics gave them. And it never felt like the Celtics did that to the Knicks. In fact, it was quite the opposite. It was almost taking them the Knicks for granted. And that allowed the Knicks to go out to that 2-0 lead, eventually 3-1, and they took care of business at home. This series went just about as opposite as you thought it was going to go. And here we are. And the worst part is, John, yeah, they lost the series, but I think it was Jay King who brought it up at the end of Joe Mazzulla's press conference. Such an unknown now of what's going to happen, but what could have been. And it brings you back to like 2009, 2010 with the Celtics, that same Celtics team, John. Or not the same team, but same Celtics organization, same situation. Injuries kind of got in the way, and you kind of felt like it was great that they won one, but damn, felt like they should have won maybe 2 or 3, and they just didn't. And goes not easy to win, but you still felt like you were left there wanting a little bit more. And that's kind of how I feel about this. If they do end up kind of blowing things up here.
Yeah, there's a lot to process now. The one is just the humiliation of going out like this.
The worst way you could go out.
You know, so that hurts. And I do think there's frustration and people are looking for, you know, scapegoats and people to blame. I think like when the dust settles, you'll be able to look at it rationally. And I do think, you know me, that last thing I do is make excuses for these guys ever. But, you know, I said it 7 weeks ago, the Brown injury is going to be a problem, you know, and when you look back on why you might lose, that's going to be a problem. That was one. Then the Porzingis thing was legitimately just absolutely out of nowhere. You just took another player away completely, just gone, took him away, gone. And then Tatum goes down. When again, you would have been down 3-1 even with Tatum. Winning, if you told me what's the Celtics' chances of winning with no KP and Brown at 50% athleticism, you'd be like, it's a coin flip, you know? Like, that's a tough one. That'll be tough. They could win this series still, but it's a coin flip. And then next round, you'd feel less confident. And in the finals, you'd feel less confident. We're talking about, could this team win a title? Not like this. This was going to be really hard. Even if you found a way to sneak through, even if Tatum doesn't get hurt, they were going to have to battle. There were nails in the coffin already on this team. The Porzingis thing, I'll never understand. I'll never be able to figure it out. Once again, same exact thing today. Like literally, he aged 30 years in 1 week. I've never seen anything like this in my life. I've never seen anything like it in my life. For a guy who actually doesn't look hurt or anything, it's not like gimpy or limping. He's just out there, but he's bad now. I'll never understand. It's that guy.
Like,
it's a guy who's awesome, but all of a sudden he's bad. No reason
like
why.
His powers are zapped.
His powers, the Monstars, comparison was the best one. Like
John, imagine if you just like couldn't host the podcast like for a week. Everyone was like, "What's up with John?" Like, I don't know. He just like forgot how to talk.
All of a sudden, I'm like, I'm just like facing this way, like
he can't form complete thoughts anymore. Yeah, like he like actually lets other people get a full point in. Like that would be weird. Like that would be you're muted. You're muted. See, he won't ever forget that. He's still muted. He can't figure it out. You're muted, dude. Oh, what are you gonna get out or something?
My microphone. While you were talking on your
mic screwed up.
On your soliloquy, is it?
Yeah, you got like an echo.
Uh-oh. See, I was trying to get cute.
You tried to get cute and you played yourself.
I posted this and I wasn't sure if it was about you or not.
New ownership, please get rid of this idiot. He's a cliche machine.
Was it talking to CLNS? I'm going to fiddle with my mic. You talk a little bit.
Probably was talking about me, but I don't think the owner's going to have much of a say there. No, it's the Porzingis stuff is a whole nother conversation because that's kind of sad because we're really not sure what the hell happened. Porzingis, I thought, was having one of the best seasons of his career before this whole issue with the original sickness and now this. What he was able to give the Celtics this year really did put them over the top. And John, you mentioned it, is, he's the X factor. If he's healthy and he's, playing the way that we've seen him play in the regular season, this team is going to be near impossible to start. He was always the X factor. Now, we never thought that it would go to what it ended up getting to, and obviously Tatum aside. But when he went down, the mysterious illness started to resurface again, we're all scratching our head, crossing our fingers that maybe he's going to just zap out of it and be himself. It never happened. And so Joe Mazzulla had to kind of fight with that same thought, I think, that, okay, well, I can't just go away from this guy. Like, we don't really know what's going on here, but maybe he's going to find it. Maybe he's going to get that energy back again. But it just never happened and ended up being quite the detriment to the team. You're back.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I'm back. People are mad at me too. They're mad at all of us. We're all walking.
Guys,
on
we didn't
eggshells
do
here.
anything. We didn't
But they're
do
mad
it.
at us.
Why?
Yeah.
What did we do? We're just here to talk about it.
They're
Unfortunately.
mad at us.
They're
So
mad at
I'll
us.
go back to what I was saying before I tried my little gimmick here.
Yeah. You just forgot how to podcast. That's all. You did it well.
I did, but I'm back now. So it's a lot to process. Look, the injuries are number one. That's that. But we're having a lot of knee-jerk reactions about different things. And so everyone's kind of got their targets on. Mazzulla can't coach. Same guy from last year. I don't know what changed. Last year, he won you over. I don't think anything changed this year with him. I don't think he was different. Can he be stubborn? Can he be frustrating? Maybe. They won 61 games this year. They were title favorites a week ago. I don't think anybody saw this coming. I don't think all of a sudden Joe Mazzulla got bad at his job in 5 days. I don't think he had the best series.
That's what it is. It's
I just
different
think
in
he
the
didn't know
playoffs.
what he was dealing with a lot of things. He kept rolling KP out, thinking he'd get something, and it was killing him. Trying different lineups and this and that. It just didn't work. And you lose Hauser a little bit. Everything just got funky. He didn't have a great series. But it's one of those, you're mad at the manager for not making a pitching change where the guy who left in would have given up the homer and the guy he brought in would have given up the homer. They were both bad. So it doesn't always, sometimes there isn't a solution. You just see something went bad and say, do it differently. It looks like we got someone else coming to the podium. So let's jump in. Looks like D White. Minus 45. Hard to do.
Mm-hmm. Minus 45, yeah.
The challenge of trying to repeat what made it so difficult.
Ugh.
I mean, obviously, you win a championship, and you got that target on your back from day one, and obviously, there's ups and downs through every season, and this part sucks, and just wasn't able to complete the goal that we set out at the beginning.
Derek, when a season ends like this, but you also have to have the context of what you accomplished during the season and getting to this point, the injuries, the case, and everything like that. How do you process a moment like this while also move forward, but knowing there's not a next game?
It sucks. Never gonna get this season back. Never gonna have the exact same team again. And so obviously there was some highs and obviously some lows of a season, and but at the moment it just, you're just kind of down.
You think about, you just mentioned that you're not going to have the same team again. You had a luxury of basically running it back this year. Is there any sense of, I don't know, regret or something that you guys weren't able to kind of accomplish what you were able to accomplish last year, knowing that a lot of these guys aren't, or some of these guys might not be back?
Yeah, we didn't have the same team this year we had last year. Obviously we had a lot of guys back, but we didn't have the same ones, and so every year it's a different team.
Yeah,
and,
you did.
Obviously it's disappointing.
Blaming the loss on not
We
having
just had
O'Shea
a goal
Brissett.
at the beginning of the year, and we fell short.
You're as close to JC as anyone on the team. I know you guys spoke to him the other day. What's have your conversations been like with him? What have these past few days been like for him? And what's kind of just the general feel of that?
Yeah, obviously it's tough. Guy that loves basketball as much as he does, and I don't know, probably it is the worst injury he's ever had, and so just try to encourage him, and I know he's starting a long journey, and he's going to do everything he can to get back out there and play.
Yeah, I guess to live through, to see how tough it is to repeat, to see how tough it is to go through the thing again. Is Is that kind of just something you've got to learn? I mean, there's been no repeat champion since 2018, and just how much good health you have to have, how much chemistry, everything seems to have to go right. Is that just a tough thing to kind of endure and experience?
Yeah, obviously, going back-to-back's tough, but winning a championship is hard. Every year, a lot of teams set out to do that, and next year is going to be the same difficult challenge of winning a championship. So, obviously, we didn't go back-to-back, but it's hard to win in this league, and you just got to learn and grow.
Looking at these past few seasons, like this team has done a lot of the kind of innovative stuff that set the direction for how the NBA is playing right now, and you've been a big part of that. What are you proud of the way that your game and this team has evolved into?
I just love playing with the guys that we have in that locker room. Just great group of guys that compete at a high level. Off the court, we just have a lot of fun, and I think that's just what I'll probably be the most proud of, is just being able to say that I put on a Boston Celtics uniform with some amazing group of people. And I mean, you go down the list of every person that's been on the Celtics since I've been here. That's probably what I'm most proud of.
Do you guys reflect on the fact that changes could happen and stuff that you don't necessarily have the same team? It looks like you're kind of reflecting on that a little bit right now, that this team won't be that involved.
I mean, I just gotta focus on what I need to focus on, which is obviously I got a lot of room for improvement. So I gotta get better. Obviously, they're gonna do their jobs, and my job right now is to get better.
There's fatigue at all. I mean, you and Jason and Drew all played in the Olympics. I mean, when you kind of reflect on it, and then now a 100-game season almost, I mean, are you more tired now than you were ever in your career? Was fatigue any factor in some of the guys?
No.
Is there anything in particular you could point out at some point in this game where things kind of just went left?
Well, it seemed like it went left pretty quick.
Thank you, Derek.
Derek White. Yeah, Derek White kind of saying what a lot of us are thinking and feeling about, like, the finality and the end of, this team, this run, this construction, this era, however you want to put it. You knew you had a window of 2 to 3 years, maybe, Jimmy, with this team. You did what everybody, you did the hard thing. You won in year one with a new team. It's very 2008. They won in year one with a new team. They got devastated by an injury in 2009 that derailed their season. In this case, it happened in the playoffs. And it not only derailed the playoffs, multiple injuries, it derailed your next season too. It's bad. So this is what happened. And so that window shuts fast. These windows are only open for a short period of time, and you don't have a margin for error. An injury or some bad luck or whatever have you. That's it. Ball game. So when it's all over, everyone's going to look back and be like, I'm glad we got that chip. But you said it, Jimmy, you're always going to think probably coulda, shoulda, woulda, would have been nice to get another. And now with a very high level of certainty that this team is not, you'll never see this team again. And that's difficult, to kind of stomach and swallow. And, they're going through it now. And that's like the flood of emotions with the Tatum thing. Some people are like, man, he's not playing next year. I don't know if I'm even going to be here next year. Certainly not going to be here in 2 years. Did I just play my last game with JT? That's it. There's a lot of that. So for sure. Right. But yeah, that's where we're at. And we're going to spend a ton of time, kind of breaking it down in the years that come up here. We do have quite a few super chats we got to get to before they stack up too badly. So give me 1 second here while I tee up a couple of them.
Thank you for the super chats, everybody.
People are saying it's not over. I don't think it's over. I'll say two things. I've got opinions. I have lots of opinions. I'm not mad. Everyone's like, "Where's Mad John?" You can't be mad about this. Look, they lost the series in the first 2 games. They pissed those away. They lost the series. You want to talk butterfly effect? You win those games. Tatum doesn't get hurt. Probably you win this series in 4 or 5 and you move on. You know, who knows if you get a healthy KP, if Brown starts to get better, what you're looking like. Maybe you hit your stride. Maybe things improve. Maybe if you wrap this up early, you get a little bit of a rest. You know, a lot of things could have happened with this same exact team, same exact circumstances. If you just took care of business, they didn't. I'm still mad about those 2 games, really about nothing else that happened since then. Knicks took game 4 from them. And Tatum got hurt, and the rest is history. Now you're just faced with a really grisly reality. And yeah, like I've got my takes in terms of what I think they could and should do, but I think we have a lot of time to talk about that right now. Talk about that like throughout the offseason here. I am definitely a little bit surprised at how quickly people turned on Joe Mazzulla.
I'm not.
In this one. And I know you were the first one that gave him that big slice of the blame pie, Jimmy, the other day when everyone was like absolving him of it. And you're like, I'm not. I'm giving him a big chunk of this. It might have been after game 2.
Yeah. It was. Yeah.
And so it is interesting to me because I do think that nobody I believe people were forced to like concede that Mazzulla, I guess he's good because they won the title and he did good things, or they did good things, but they really wanted to take it back, right? Nobody really fully bought in on it. And again, I'm just clarifying. I don't know that I think Joe is a good coach because I don't really fully know the level of buy-in, what types of adjustments. Guys, we all have to understand, you're stupid, we're stupid. The basketball's played at such a higher level than what we can we're all so stupid when watching
all right.
It's such, the stuff is so high level that's going on there in terms of the things they do. And I'll say this, I'll let people in on a little peek behind the curtains. Joe Mazzulla every once in a while will welcome media in to sessions with him, and he'll explain some of the stuff that's been going on and talk about some of the things that people are talking about. And he has these little chats, just informative things. And people walk out of that thing like I thought I knew basketball, and I'm talking like the smartest, most filmy, analytical, nerdy of all the media guys are like, okay, Joe knows basketball.
I like basketball too.
They're good at basketball. So, he's obviously a smart guy. Are there things not to like? Sure, rotations, this and that. And we'll talk more about Joe in a minute. We got Jaylen Brown. They're feeding them to us quickly here. They want to get out of there.
Are they muted? Yeah. TD Guard's muted.
This, while also understanding that there's no next game to process for, like, how do you go through that?
It stings, as it should. Anytime, losing stings, especially finishing your season like this, It just wasn't our year. Say it again.
Why do you feel like it wasn't your year? And obviously, you went through a lot physically this year as well. Did it just kind of feel that way for you personally?
It wasn't our year because we lost tonight. That's, battling through injury, we had some ups and downs, X, Y, and Z. I'm proud of our guys that came out and fought. Still have a lot to hang our head about. Just tonight, just unfortunate. It sucks.
How bad was the injury? Do you feel like you're going to need any treatment over the summer?
Nothing to talk about right now, but we'll see how the next steps, and you just kind of sit back and process and see what the next steps are.
Jaylen, you've consistently used the offseason to come back back a better player. Do you know what you want to work on this summer, or does that take time to refine and then go after?
You take time, sit back and kind of figure it out. But, I'm excited. Things didn't go your way this year. Things didn't go our way this year. And it's unfortunate, but, we hold our head up regardless. Losing to the Knicks, feels like death. But, I was always taught that there's life after death. So we'll get ready for whatever's next in the journey. I'll be ready for.
Jaylen, two major unexpected events for you to end the season. Obviously, the season ending in the second round and Jason's injury. How did those two things maybe reshape what you thought your summer was going to be like and how you come back next season?
Yeah, completely. Finishing in May feels weird. Definitely not something we were prepared for. Obviously, Jason, his injury, etc. I'm sure there's, a lot to process, just as everything, this whole year. But, we'll meet. We'll take a couple days. It's hard, like processing it all right now in real time. Y'all throwing all these questions at me, but I'm happy that our group, stayed together. It was an honor to share the locker room with a lot of these guys. It hurt to see, the emotions of all the guys, being a leader and, not being able to carry everybody to the promised land. It sucks, but it just wasn't our year.
Jim, what was your view or kind of assessment of how Joe navigated you guys through this season?
I thought we had a great year.
Joe questions.
We had a great year. Joe prepared us as best he could. We had a great mindset. We had a great mentality. We had some unfortunate events. We had some, injuries and
with Zoolander in the building too.
Things like that. No excuses, but it just wasn't our year.
What was your perspective of everything that went into Kristaps playing, and just kind of the journey he's been on since he had that illness in March?
For sure. KP's been a large part of our success, our recent success last year, even going into this year. In the playoffs, he wasn't feeling his best, but we appreciate him getting out there. And KP's a tough guy. He has a great mentality, a great approach about himself and his game and his body. It's a tough process for everybody, but KP, from an injury perspective, he was available all year long. He helped us all year long, and it's just unfortunate that it ended this way.
You're used to not winning the championship. That's the norm, right? So last year you guys do it. You don't have to deal with this feeling. What does it feel like now coming up short compared to before you experienced what it's like to win a championship? What feels different about not winning now that you actually know what it's like to win the championship?
It feels the same. It almost feels worse. We were trying to do something special, go back to back. We had a great group. We played well all year, so I think this probably stings even more. We just had some unfortunate events, some injuries. Personally, I had some stuff that I was persevering through, and it just, it caught up to us in the end.
You mentioned how it was an honor to play with these guys. What made this group in particular just such a joy to play with?
Just a bunch of great guys, a bunch of, great selfless guys about winning, that, put their bodies on the line, that came into work every day, that, just added to the group. We had no situations, no headaches, no turmoil or anything like that. And, that's most important, that our group we had a bunch of great days together. We didn't win in the end.
Last question, Gary. Jaylen, is this being kind of knocked back to the bottom of the mountain with other teams? Can that be served as motivation? Is this kind of it's a bad day or down, but is it also a motivating day? Can you point back to this, you and the franchise, pointing back to this to go, this could be a positive in a sense?
Absolutely. I don't make no excuses. Obviously, it's tough the way we went out like tonight, but the way we finished the year, personally, where I finished the year, persevering through some physical stuff that I was battling through. I'm proud of our group. I thought that, we fought. We was in a lot of battles, and it's a lot to be excited for. This journey is not the end. It's not the end for me. I'm looking forward to coming back stronger, so, you just take this with your chin up. I know Boston, it looks gloomy right now, obviously with JT being out and us, kind of ending the year. But it's a lot to look forward It's a lot to look forward to. And I want the city to feel excited about that. Like this is not the end. So I'm looking forward to what's next.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay.
That was Jaylen Brown here. And again, interesting. The commenters pretty split on Jaylen. Some anger about
My next chapter loading.
Style, dribbling, X, Y, and Z, not meeting expectations. Other people saying Jaylen, hey, he showed up tonight. A lot of other people didn't. Played with heart, and showed toughness, showed leadership. Can't argue with any of that. There's some good and some bad tonight, but again, I'm giving this version of Jaylen a bit of a pass simply because he can't jump. He's just not himself. It's not the same guy. He's totally different player. I do want to say once again, people are, as they're wont to do sometimes because people are emotional, understand, like, Jimmy, am I like an unabashed Joe Mazzulla supporter?
No, I wouldn't say that.
No,
You're
I
not
just
very
think
critical,
I think it's
you don't go high or low on the coach.
It's the first thing people go to, and I often think it's the least of your problems, and that's always it. Generally speaking, I think in football, coaching matters probably 10 times more than every other sport combined, because literally you're deciding what the players do every single snap. There's nothing uncoached in that. This is the players. The players play. Most wins and losses are on players. And that's why going to the coach and being like, get Mazzulla out of here. This team's no better or worse with the next guy you bring in who's not. And like I said, I loved Ime. I think it was a massive downgrade from Ime to Joe. I think they win the title last year with Ime. I think Ime probably has an expiration date because he's kind of an asshole and he's tough on the guys, and people don't like to be criticized all the time. So those types of coaches, they have shorter shelf lives. But I loved him. I loved what he did. I loved that he was tough. I loved that they played hard for him. I loved that it was defense first. I loved his mentality, held people accountable, all of that stuff. Joe was a little bit more about love and trust and this and that, which Celtics preach during good times. Everybody loves love and trust, except when things aren't going well. And then it's Joe tell these guys exactly what to do. So I don't know. Like I said, it's the last place I go. Even though we'll flat out say Mazzulla, I thought was shitty here. Mazzulla was great in the finals last year. Mazzulla outcoached, two really good coaches in the conference finals and the finals last year. He really did. I think after getting pantsed by Spoelstra a little bit in the conference finals 2 years ago, he grew up a lot last year and he changed a lot about himself. So, Mazzulla's responsible for some of the good also. He's certainly not to blame for all of the bad. So that's more of a super low-hanging fruit. People like to jump in on it, get really mad at Joe because he's easy to not like. He's weird. He's a little bit caustic. He's combative. The style can be grating because when the threes don't fall and you don't see another approach, people get really upset. It's easy to he's an easy guy to criticize. He's an easy guy not to like. And he's an easy guy to turn on. And honestly, that could cost him a job because he's a little bit weird and off-putting. And all it takes is an owner just be like, I just don't dig this vibe. And we don't have the results either, so he's gone. So, yeah, would it be stunning? I don't know. And we are going to talk about Mazzulla because I think next year's his contract year. I think he got a 3-year extension. Next year's third year. So they've got to make a decision on him. It's going to be it's got to be extend or fire pretty much. He's not going to enter a lame duck season. That just never happens. So I don't know. We have a bunch of super chats, so we're going to rip through a few of them here.
Well, real quick, let me just follow up.
Go ahead.
But As far as they have to make a decision on Mazzulla, I don't necessarily think that's true. I will say, like, both things can be true. Joe Mazzulla can still be considered, a good coach, and he could still be considered. You could still talk about the good things that he's done and how he's grown as a coach from year one. And you can also be frustrated with the way he coached in this series. And I think when and I agree with you, John, it does ultimately fall on the players, but coaching does matter the most in the postseason. I think it's seen the most in the postseason because it becomes a little bit of a chess match. This is a series. How is each coach going to take the results from the previous game, make adjustments or not make adjustments, and try to win the next one? And I think a lot of fans look at Joe and don't see a lot of adjustments, don't see a lot of different strategies kind of put in there game to game. I think fans over the last season or two have been frustrated with his inability to kind of read the moment and stop opposing teams' momentum. And he even mentioned momentum in his press conference tonight. He specifically said that the Knicks were able to sort of roll in game. And I think that is partially on the coach to be able to understand what it takes to stop that from happening, even if it's temporary. Take the fans out of it if it's on the road, or, do what you got to do to reverse that momentum in game. And I don't think he did that enough. I think we've talked about his inability to kind of read the Porzingis situation. That's probably one thing that fans are going to hang on there, stuck with him a little bit too long. I think his inability to rely at all on the bench at points. And I know he went to Cornette in game 5 because he kind of even admitted he had no choice. Porzingis literally couldn't breathe. Pritchard had an amazing, game 3, and he was around after that, but it just didn't feel like he utilized any of the role players. You look at the Knicks roster, and from 1 to 8, it just felt like those guys are more involved, a much more balanced attack. And tonight obviously was a perfect example of that. I mean, the starting lineup, I think we're all in double digits, and so I do think that there is some criticism certainly for Joe, and all the points you said about him are true. He's the type of guy that he might be the smartest guy in the room, but I think part of being the smartest guy in the room is not acting like you're the smartest guy in the room, right? So I think that does rub some people the wrong way. And I don't think his job is in jeopardy. It's very obvious in the NBA. We see great coaches getting canned all the time. We've seen it this year a couple of times. I just don't think the Celtics are there with him. I don't think that he's done enough wrong to that would, to me, be kind of a undeserving firing at this point. But I will say, going into next season with the roster being different, he's not blessed with, the best 1 through 6 in the NBA, most likely. How is he going to be able to handle an above average, good, maybe very good even roster? Because the microscope will be on him a lot more. When you win a title, you've got the rest of the year to.
Yeah, you got to go back to Brad with an underachieving roster, right?
Right, exactly.
I mean, with a reduced talent roster.
A reduced talent roster. And I said this before, and my buddy Brendan Jackson, who is does Celtics podcast, and he's been in the Celtics media circuit. He made a very good point about Brad Stevens. He said Brad Stevens was a floor raiser, but not a ceiling raiser. And I think that was a very good sort of description of the type of coach Brad was. He was able to get a lot out of guys that you didn't think he could, but some of the superstar players, it felt like, didn't really push it to that second level. And maybe Ime was able to do that. Maybe Ime is the opposite, right? Maybe Ime was able to get something out of Tatum and Brown and things like that. And so Joe, I don't know if we know what Joe is. I think Joe was gifted this roster, and to his credit, he won a championship with them. And I guess we'll see what happens now with a different roster. But there's reason to criticize Joe, certainly. And there's also reason to say, well, he was able to maximize what these guys were able to do. And if you just think it's all about numbers and stats, then that might be a criticism. Maybe it's just, hey, go out there and take as many threes as you can, because threes are worth more than twos. And statistically speaking, it improves our odds of winning.
By the way,
but at some point, that shit hits the fan, right? And it doesn't go the way you want it to go, and the numbers don't work. What?
Low key, I
By
put
the
this
way,
comment up here. Low key, I put this comment up here. I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility.
That would be that would be out of character, I think. It's interesting though. I mean, how is ownership going to? What's the conversation the new ownership's going to have with Brad? You know, what are they telling Brad? What are they going to allow Brad to do? Because Wick had funny money, so Wick was fine with whatever Brad wanted to do. He wasn't signing the checks, and he probably knew the whole time that they were going to sell at any point as soon as the bill was to be paid anyway.
Yeah. This is a good point too. Like, guys, we bought a championship last year. Like, you picked the bones of a couple of franchises looking at shed salary, got Porzingis and Holiday for spare parts, and the entire NBA was like, are you freaking kidding me? How did you let this team get those guys? And then they steamrolled everybody with the most talented roster in the NBA by miles. They just couldn't run it back this year for a series of issues we're talking about. It's sometimes as easy as, they never put it together this year. They were inconsistent with the lineups and the injuries throughout the year. Porzingis was on, then he was off, then Jaylen gets hurt late. They entered the playoffs hurt. They got more hurt. Sometimes it's pretty basic. Like, like I said, everyone wants their pound of flesh right now, and they're going to go after people. Trade Jaylen, trade Drew, trade KP, launch, fire Joe. Fine. But it's sometimes it's this. This was the year you had to win it again because you knew changes were coming. Shit went sideways. That's the end of that. It happened. Let's get to some of these super chats here and roll through. So painful to watch. How'd we get here? Every criticism proven right. Thanks for getting me throughout the season, y'all. Zannis, see you around town.
Oh, we got a Newton guy?
I don't know. Maybe I will see you around town, my friend.
Yeah, you got plenty of free time now.
Nobody in Newton, nobody knows I do this show. I'm like secret. I'm like Christian Slater, in my whatever that movie. Pump up the volume.
Newton's above our show. Is that what you're trying to say?
I don't. Yeah, they're like, yeah,
they're old. They're cable. Yeah,
they're old. They're refined. They're cable. Like,
they haven't cut the cord. They don't even know.
Did you watch that terrific Felger Maz program? Oh, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. You should
that
see it.
Felger, man. He just tells it like it is.
Oh, it's wonderful. That's great. They still, they think I read this great piece in the Boston Herald. That's
Newton's on the Globe.
Newton's more Globe. Yeah, Newton's more Globe. Let's get through some of this. Celtics, Colin McAuliffe. Celtics used all their energy in Game 5. Yep, you could feel that, right? That's not crazy.
I said it. Dead cat bounce, didn't I, John? I couldn't get the words out, but I did say it.
I still, I wouldn't confidently be able to use that, but that's okay. Jim Smith just throwing down a 10
Jim
spot,
Smith.
just for fun. Timmy from Nigeria. It's imperative Joe goes this offseason because there are so many good coaches in the pool. Great show all year, guys. I need Brad to do his magic. Jimmy, I'll say this.
A couple coaches available.
There are coaches available. We'll get back to Joe later because we're going to get Bobby and Noah's thoughts too. The Brad will save us. I do find to be among the more naive thoughts and takes this year. Like, people have to is a miracle possible? Maybe. Not likely. People have to understand what's going on. Like, when you went 2 years ago and got a younger KP and Drew Holiday, still very much in their primes, from teams who just didn't want to pay them and didn't need expensive veterans and were looking to shed salary and get assets, and you got them really, really, really cheaply because teams just didn't want to pay them. Now imagine how much teams want to pay those guys 2 years older, coming off so-so seasons and not great postseasons, and knowing that you're desperate to sell. You're not in a position
right now. You don't even know if the guy can play basketball.
When you're trading these guys, you're trading them for nothing but salary relief. You're not getting stuff in return. At best, you're not giving away assets to trade them, but you're not getting stuff back. If you're just shedding parts, you're just getting worse. I don't know what Brad can do there with that stuff.
Somebody called him Porzingis.
Porzingis. So I don't know. From a journalistic, David Andrews wants to know, journalistic perspective, how do you guys even start writing about this game? I don't know, Jimmy. You're more of a writer than I am. You tell me.
I would just my lead would probably be and so concludes the week from hell. I mean, that's probably how it would start. I mean, on Monday, you had Jason Tatum and you had a game 3 win, and you were still down in the series, but you felt like you were going to win the series. Every Celtics fan I talked to still felt like they were going to win the series, and rightfully so. Monday happens and everything goes up in smoke, and Friday happens and now you're out of the playoffs, and it's just things can change very quickly. We're talking about 1 week here. This is like a bad work week for people. Have the Celtics had the worst work week of everybody?
They did.
And so that's probably how I would start, and then go on and on about how they came out so flat. That's it.
Yeah. My lead, LEDE lead. LEDE lead. My lead to this one would be at least we had game 5. Because that was it. That's it. You got that.
If you can sell yourself on that, John, then good on you.
Because and then everything went to shit there. But at least we had game 5. And then you just talk about Celtics underman, hurt, had nothing left.
Right.
Shots
Brown,
didn't fall.
All Jaylen Brown could say was
it
wasn't our year. It wasn't our year. It wasn't our year.
Well, this is rational here. Blood of DePanta. Team full of cowards, trained them away. Time for reality hit the fan base. Look, I don't know. I have my thoughts here too. I do think when things go bad, you see the warts much more than they're easier to ignore when you're winning. But yeah, the flaws are magnified. Jason Tatum, when he's not playing well, in some of these games, well, is he that alpha guy? Can he lead the team? He can't score on his own. What's going on outside of that 42-point game? Jaylen Brown with the handles and the turnovers and the decision-making. Derek White, sometimes he just goes cold. He's clearly not a number 2. He's clearly still a role player. Mm-hmm. Holiday's getting old. You're always going to find the things, Joe. You find them when things go bad. I do think you got to step back from it a little bit and look, but the reality hitting the fan base is more the economic reality here that I think. Ryan Smitty throwing down here. Thank you guys for another great season. You're my only way to talk Celtics out here in San Diego. Loved getting another Cornet argument yesterday. It has been too long. See you guys next season. Whatever we have, we'll let you guys know. Smitty and everybody else, we're far from done, even though this is the last post-game show. We're going to be doing still a couple of shows per week, getting together, talking throughout the NBA playoffs and all of that
interesting
stuff.
Offseason too.
And the offseason is going to be insane. So there's going to be so much news. And also when there's breaking news, we're going to be on top of it. Should there be trades, firings, hirings, who the hell knows? We'll be all over that as well. Jake, this was just painful. Thanks for everything, guys. Thank you, Jake. And thank you guys for watching. Little Can, I feel nothing. Yikes. Watching this style of play, the refusal to adjust and the whatever vibes from the coach makes it so easy to not care and to be excited to see them sell off players and rebuild. Wow.
Damn.
Jimmy.
A Little Can.
Hardo Joe has been eliminated by far inferior teams in 2 of his 3 seasons. Agree with Miami. Joe. I don't know that the Knicks were inferior given the firepower that Celtics had for this one. So I don't know. Tucker, you're the best. No, Tucker, you're the best.
Tucker.
Thanks for a great season. Looking forward to good vibes. Jimmy, read the next couple.
John. We know John. John's got the burger.
Maybe
truck.
tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow's the day. Haven't you heard? Tatum was carried. People are such clowns. Going to be a long off season, but I trust Brad. Hopefully Tatum comes back the same player. So John is obviously, what's the word?
Tongue in cheek here a little bit on the Tatum stuff.
Haven't you heard? Tatum was carried. So, I mean, listen, there were a lot of people, John, that were saying, John Zannis, that were saying that. over the last couple days that might be deleting some tweets and maybe scrubbing the internet of some hot takes, because Celtics came out in game Wednesday night and they played a good style of basketball and inspired, and all of a sudden Tatum was holding the team back. But I think the tunes changed a little bit after this one.
Oh yeah, the tune definitely changed. And again, we said it, I think we were saying it in text, and I had a lot of people, kind of off to the side, like there's no question that there's a stylistic difference when Tatum's not in there. Definitely more pace, less standing around, sometimes there's more ball movement, and you can see it. And when it works and the shots are falling and you see that, everyone's like, oh, and then, you get those ideas into your head. But at the same time, and we said this last show, and I said it in conversations the last couple of days, the next day when those things aren't happening for you, you're going to be like, oh my God, we need him so bad. Where is Tatum? And that's just how that stuff goes. So, and I tweeted this, mainly jokingly, and a lot of people took it pretty seriously.
I didn't see that. That's funny.
Kind of in the same vein. It was like, it's a stupid take. It's a stupid take. But anyway.
They would have lost by 50 tonight.
Yeah, moving on.
All right, Derek. Appreciate it. Derek's been a mainstay this season, so we appreciate Derek. Mazzulla shouldn't have put in KP. Mazzulla shouldn't have put in KP anywhere in this game in the first place. Killed any defensive momentum we had in the first quarter. Mazzulla wasn't good in Orlando either. Didn't prep our guys well these playoffs, TBH. Honestly, I see no lies. I really do see no lies there. I mean, the Celtics had to scratch and claw against Orlando, and it felt like the other top teams were kind of cruising in that first round, although obviously it didn't work out for Cleveland. But Magic beat up this Celtics team, man, and they were licking their wounds all the way through that Knicks series.
Yeah.
Jonathan, Joe Mazzulla needs to reflect on himself and stop being so stubborn and learn how to draw plays for upcoming season. Ouch. Yeah, I mean, that's how a lot of people feel, I think. And again, John, you said it, when you act the way you do, people are going to, it's the Bill Belichick effect. I mean, how many people are taking victory laps on Bill Belichick right now?
Well, on a human level, because I never, like I said, I say this all the time, Jimmy, like, I don't give a crap that Joe's going to beat on reporters and X, Y, and Z and act the way that he acts and not give answers.
Only when he does to Bobby.
Yeah, I don't like that.
We
but
don't
not
like that.
not hold players accountable publicly, because it doesn't matter to the fans until you lose, and then the fans are like, "You friggin' like being an asshole."
I think Joe knows that
being an asshole publicly hurts you when things aren't going well. And like you see contrite when Joe knows he didn't have a good game, or he didn't have the answers, or he wasn't able to pull it through. You see him change his tone completely. So Joe probably on a human level could stand to learn having a little bit more humility in these interview sessions and not just beating on people because he knows basketball better, because it doesn't help his perception to fans, and people are going to be quicker to kind of like, you think it's crazy? Like, fans fired Gerard Mayo this year. Like, it's not absurd. Like, being like, fans willed that into existence. I don't think anybody was thinking it until everyone's like, we got to fire this friggin' guy. So like, you gotta learn to play for your own
fans turn on the franchise. That's
for your own preservation, self-preservation. A little bit of humility would go would go a long way there.
Alex Neri, $10. Thank you. Thanks for a great season, guys. Hold the faith. The future is still bright. If anyone comes back from this injury stronger than ever, it's Iron Man JT. I trust Brad with my life to get us through this. Hey, that's a good way to, honestly, that's a good mindset to have going into the offseason. And I think a lot of people feel Jason Tatum is going to make a full recovery. And I do too. The fact that he had this, Noah had some good insights on, the timing of the surgery, and, Bobby's had some insights on the type of the surgery, and thinking that it might be that
speed of it,
speed and bridging the gap of the injury. Speed bridge, everybody.
Some name for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Jonathan. He comes back again. But overall, Celtics should blame themselves for this season after losing
first two games. No question.
Should never have happened. 100%. Justin Chapin. Not the best way to end the season, but that's ball. Thanks for all the great work you guys do. Great season of CLNS regardless. Thank you guys for watching. And
Thank you, Justin.
For joining. This is therapy for us, just like it is for you. Jonathan again? Oh my God, he's got money. Do we think Jaylen needs surgery this offseason?
He said no, right? He said nothing structural. So let's just hope it's rest. Let's hope it's rest that he should have gotten 2 months ago. And I'm never gonna let that one go, but that's fine. I'm never gonna let that go.
Surgery would seem kind of aggressive for the level that he was playing, but sometimes they do these little microscopic
cleanups. Yeah, exactly. So who knows? Your favorite Scorpio? Can we just pour one out for the homies? That's what we're doing tonight. That's why I'm not ready to rage yet. I'm still in the pour it out for the homies sort of mode here because I appreciate the effort. We get frustrated by the Celtics throughout, but they still.
They're limping around out there, man.
A couple things go in a different way. A couple more super chats we're going to get out to Bobby and Noah as well. Jake Wamala, we had a great run, guys. Been successful 4 to 5 years. Hard to win in the playoffs and even harder to win a championship. No doubt. No doubt. They could have come away from this even pre-Holiday and Porzingis with another chip too. Would have been nice, but didn't happen. Tori After Hours, listen to all your post-game episodes this season. Going to miss you guys this summer.
We're not going away.
Thanks for everything. What will be your posting schedule over the next few months? So what I will say here, and thank you for watching, is follow all of our socials. Best way to get there. And then subscribe to all of the channels. That's clearly the best.
If you subscribe, it's very simple. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you will know when we go live. So it's tough to say what the
Turn
schedule
on the
is.
notifications. Turn them on.
Tough to know what the schedule is because we we'll like John said, we'll go once or twice a week, but the breaking news in the offseason it's all over the map. I mean, the Celtics could make a trade starting tomorrow. I'm not saying they will, but if they did, we're going live. So that's the best way to catch our shows. And obviously they get saved and you can catch up with them, after they go live and on the YouTube page. But yeah, Celtics CLNS on Instagram. We post a lot of good clips on there. And just our own personal, I guess, Twitter accounts would link to shows like that too. So.
Yep, no doubt about
Thanks
that.
For watching.
Waiting for Bobby and Noah to get set up, so we'll just go a couple more here.
Bends.
Action Benz. No one is turning on Mazzulla. He's been a mediocre coach for 3 years, and he was just given an overwhelming amount of talent. He gets outcoached every single series. Yowza.
Damn, tell us how you really feel.
Some friggin' heat. Action Ben's also one of the OGs.
But really, though, I mean,
watching everything consumes a lot of the Pats content too. Yeah.
Tibbs got him.
Jimmy, you call it, what's this guy's name?
I call it bass rock. You call it bass rock, like slap at the bass, man. But it's bass. It's like bass and rock. It's music.
I know.
We're music guys. We need someone who knows how to call plays and knows how to adjust. Someone who can bring the best out of them and not relying on Warriors-style ball.
I caught you.
These two can bring the best out of us, John.
We're planning.
You're scheming.
How's it going, guys?
Yeah.
Hey, how's it going?
How's it going, Noah? I'm so glad you asked. It's going great.
Noah just told me.
How are you guys doing?
Bobby, not every private
hope
conversation
this is- I
that
hope
we
this
had.
is good for air.
No, I don't even know what I said.
Tell
I
us.
talk to Bobby now. It's like on the record, is what it feels like.
You just said it 1
What
second
did I
ago.
say? You can say it. I don't even remember.
She said she accepted it.
Oh, I did.
I don't know when that happened, but
I said that after game 4, I feel like it was kind of like, damn. But after this game, it was.
but after game 5, you
I
said they were gonna
know.
win.
I stop.
Bobby,
They used to
she's,
call me-
she's been on the field for like
a lot of us
It's
got
hard to
caught in the
process
moment.
everything that's happening here. Like
We got caught in the moment.
We
So
got
wait,
caught.
what did Noah
got
do?
fooled.
She said she accepted it.
She accepts the
Accepted
loss.
what?
the
Is it
outcome.
is it under protest?
Yeah.
This wasn't what
I
I, was
think-
bringing to the show. This is what I said to
think-
Bobby before we went live.
Bobby
think it
thought
was
that
more,
this was
Meaning you're okay with it. You've reconciled. Like you're
Yeah, I don't have like
you're-
anger about how the season went. I
Me
don't
neither.
have like
We're not. We're a little sad, but I think this is how this was going to go for the various reasons throughout. So, like, I don't know how much you guys want to talk about the game, but talk about the vibes
No.
here. You know, you guys were in there.
The game is a disgrace.
Yeah.
That's all we
How-
gotta say. But
Go
the
ahead.
vibes
Yeah.
are just
Bobby had some crazy lines during the game. That's what I'll say.
oh, you can share those since I shared yours. I don't know how these guys reconcile
Pull
with
'em
this,
up.
and it was
No.
challenging for all of them, right? None of them know who will be back. all of them expressed their admiration for the teammates and how great it was to play with them and all of that. You definitely felt some resignation that this thing's going to change a lot. And I thought Derek White's quote was the best, where you're just not going to have the same team next year. You're never going to have this year back. They had a golden opportunity this year. And there were definitely times, I already wrote my article tonight, and just going through it, I was like, there were times where the season felt inevitable. There were a lot of red flags, but this team, a lot of times this year, just felt inevitable, that they'd get through the East, that maybe they'd face a tough team in the finals. There was so much that just felt certain about this group when you run it back like this. But, I do go back to something we talked about earlier this year, that no team has made it past the second round since those Warriors teams. And that happens again here with the Celtics going down in round 2. You're weighing two things, right? There were obviously disastrous injuries and a lot of excuses that are valid here, but they also put themselves in an impossible position by blowing 2 20-point leads to start this series, and they need to own up to that. That was just unacceptable. And so, I guess there's some resignation.
That's the whole series.
Happening where it was,
Yeah.
but the whole series was right there. You said it after game 2. Whoever won that game was going to win.
Yeah,
the series,
that
and
was
it
the
true.
one time I was right.
I
this
wish you
series.
stuck to that. That was your best take.
Yeah, well, here's what I'll say. I think there's going to be a lot of discussion over the next few weeks around whether there were warning signs around this team's collapse in the second round. And I think you go back to December and January in that 5-week period where they weren't consistent. And people are going to go back to saying, maybe where there were warning signs about the starting lineup. They always had bad ratings, that group of 5, right? Obviously, Porzingis was a very different player. I'll process it all and think about it and rewatch some of the stuff that went down in this past, 10 days. But truly, and I asked Joe this, post game, but I truly don't think that this team was inherently destined to not win the championship this season, or they just didn't have it, or there were signs that we could have said, because of X, Y, and Z, like they weren't going to get it done. I'm sure a lot of people are going to disagree with me on that because this wasn't a perfect year.
I probably disagree.
You'll probably disagree with me on that. But I think at the end of the day, like, you look at the 4 teams that are left, 5 teams that are left, they all had terrible moments, except for the Thunder. But they all had moments where it was like they did not look like they were going to end up in the conference finals. The Knicks had a million signs pointing to it, right? The Pacers started the year awful the first few months. The Timberwolves, don't even get me started, right? So at the end of the day, like, I think they just didn't make winning plays in this series. And you can't get away with that in more than one game, pretty much. You can do it for a game in the playoffs, but you can't do it for 3, and they did it for way more than that, but they just didn't make the plays. And last year's team was special, and they had all the pieces, and they had winners and depth and all these great things, but what it really came down to is they made winning plays. And that's why it takes so many chances to win a championship, is because even if you have the right pieces and you have the perfect roster, like, things have to come together. And I think health played a part. Like, they were definitely a lot healthier last season, but some of it was just like, I'll never really understand the fourth quarter collapses earlier in the series. They don't really make sense. And I don't think that they're representative of like who this team is and who they were all year. I think it was kind of a little bit of an aberration.
Well, when I look at tonight, just to touch on tonight briefly, it reflected a lot of the series, obviously to the extreme, right? Because everything was just magnifying this game, how bad they were. They could never get to the paint in this series. Maybe in that game 5, they did a better job pushing the pace and getting out and running and beating the Knicks there. But when the Knicks were set, they just had no access to the paint. And you saw early the tough 2-pointers they took, the way they turned the ball over by trying to force the issue. Then they try to lean back on the threes. And I'm not going to go too far with the 3-point thing, but it is part of the story here. And if we do look back at some of the warning signs early in the season, one of the big things we talked about is that this team was not as good of a shooting team as a year ago. They shot way more threes, but they weren't as good at them. And there were some massive cold spells throughout this season that hit them again in the series at the beginning.
It's true, John.
Especially when they were trying to maintain leads.
It is for the season, but from the second half of the season on, they shot about the same clip that they did for the entirety of the season before.
And entering tonight, they were shooting 36% for the playoffs.
Yeah, but what were they last year? Like a 40% three-point shooting team?
In the playoffs?
No, in the regular season.
I don't know 40, but I think the reality is, like, you look at games 1 and 2, the big story was the 25 out of 100 threes. Like, that's where they lost the series, right? It was in those first 2 games. They had no business losing those games. At that point, they had Tatum, they had everybody. And I don't think the 3-point shooting is why they lost. And
I'm not saying it's why they lost. I'm saying they couldn't lean back on it when they couldn't do other things. And in this series, you couldn't get to the rim. You couldn't rebound in key spots.
Rebounding is crazy.
Your ball control fell apart. in key situations, all the margin things Joe talks about. And so every time those things started to fall apart, I just saw them trying to save themselves with threes. And this game, again, the percentage just kept getting lower and lower and lower as the game went on. I'm not going to sit here and say they lost the season or they lost the series because they shot too many threes here. But I'm just saying that they couldn't lean back on that the way they could last year. And they didn't have, especially without Porzingis, that curveball, that other option, that other thing that they could get to here. And obviously they didn't last postseason either. But again, you just had such a high level of shooting, such a prolific offense last year for so much of that run that, you didn't have to get into some of that other stuff as much there. And obviously you face much more resistance even through the first 2 rounds of this postseason than you did for much of last postseason.
Yeah, and I thought tonight was a perfect case study. And, I don't really care too much about this game, but obviously, it is why they're in this position, right? They could have forced the Game 7 here. Like, they got open threes, but they did not get good threes. There was no rhythm. There was no flow to their offense. That's the one thing that the advanced analytics don't take into account when you look at, like, closeouts or open threes or 3 feet of space.
It's a big part of the series.
They took bad shots. They were never able to create any sort of flow. And it was kind of astonishing just because this was ultimately the same exact roster that looked really phenomenal on offense 2 nights ago. And it just kind of representative of why you have to kind of account for having some of these games. Like, you have to, in a 7-game series, you have to account for, you might just have a dud night like this one. And this was the dud, but they had no margin of error after the way the things started. So I'll keep pointing back to those early games because they put themselves in a hole where now you have to be perfect. Now you have to shoot really well the rest of the way. And they did not have it. And I also think, like, from a health standpoint, I know Jaylen maintained to us entering this round that he was at 100%, but like, it didn't help that Tatum was out and also struggling, but also Jaylen did not have his usual burst and explosion. And I can only hope that he gets that back next year and that whatever he's dealing with, which I don't know if we'll ever really know exactly the details. Maybe we will. But I can only hope that he's able to return back to that.
I was
form.
hoping to get a greater outlook on his health. He didn't give much of one tonight.
Well, did you guys ask whether surgery or anything?
He said
needs
he's
to be
not going
done?
to talk about it right now, but they're going
Bobby
to
asked
figure
him.
some stuff out.
Okay, I wasn't sure what that was in response to because I missed the question. Speaking of maybe never knowing what the hell's going on with somebody, Kristaps Porzingis again continues to be one of the most baffling things I've ever seen in my life.
I thought we were going to get an answer there tonight too.
In terms of an injury, Porzingis in this series, 4.2 points per game, 3.7 rebounds, 0.5 assists, 16% field goal percentage in this series.
I said it.
And you know what, John? It felt worse than that. And it honestly felt worse.
It felt worse in 15 minutes per game. And again, I believe Joe had to try. I think he did the right thing with Porzingis. He rolled him out to sea. Still didn't really have it. Limited the minutes because you needed him if he existed, but he never existed. And listening to him talk after the game, we're going to play it right now. Or just I was reading the quotes. I want to hear it. He's like, not sure. When Noah says the other day, like, guys, we shouldn't joke about this because we don't know like how messed up he is. Like, he doesn't know right now. So here's Porzingis talking about like what's going on with him.
It's kind of go out like this, a team, a proud team, a championship team, to kind of not give your best when you needed to.
Yeah, extremely tough night for us. Felt like nothing was going our way, and just the game was easy for them. Many things that just were not clicking for us, and from the beginning they just created a lead. We didn't really have any good moments in the game to kind of get back there, and it was just a tough night and tough way to end on this note.
How frustrating personally is the last couple of months been for you to just have to kind of fight through this, not really be sure of what to do to get out there the way you want to be?
Right. Super frustrating, as frustrating as you can imagine. Just to, not be able to help this team more, and especially with JT going out and just not being too much of a help. It just hurts deep inside of here, and it really sucks. It really, really sucks, in these moments. But yeah, what can we do? Try to get what I had, and we just fell short.
What were you going through over the last couple of months here, for the fans who kind of want to know more about that? And do you have concerns long term, about your health beyond this?
I'm not sure. I don't think so. I mean, I always like try to downplay it in my own mind, that's like I'm good. But I think just, I don't know, my system just is not perfect right now. It's not working the way it should be. Many weird things, and might be the best thing I need right now is just to rest, just get somewhere in the sun and just let my system kind of even itself out. So, but it's definitely, it was a very, very frustrating time for me, and yeah, nothing else much to add really. Just it's going to be now for me at least some time to recover from this.
Is there anything more you've learned about what sickness it is? The last time you told us you thought it was bronchitis.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, doctors are trying to help as much as possible, but it was just some lingering fatigue, some effects, and even right now, I'm just, I played, 11 minutes, but I'm gassed right now. Like I could just lay down here and just take a little nap, easy, which is extremely weird, and many symptoms that were kind of super weird. So I think nobody has a clear answer. I'll see how I go from here, and maybe I do some extra testing, some extra stuff, and see if we find something. But if not, maybe just a reset for my whole system, and that will get my energy levels hopefully back up.
He is not like hypochondriac like I am, because he's so laid back about this. This is like so alarming
So
to me.
he did go on to say that he had heart tests, he had like return to play safety tests that made him not concerned about playing through it. And it's weird here, right? Because there still sounds like there's some uncertainty about what this is. But Joe was on the radio a couple weeks ago saying that they do know what this is. So I was expecting to hear something definitive here, and it is strange that we don't have an answer. Or maybe just didn't want to give one. I don't know.
Here's the thing: is it doesn't actually matter, right? Like, fine, name it something. Like, if he's going to be fine eventually, it's not a big deal. If he's going to be not fine, it is a big deal. People seem to be obsessed with like, why don't they just tell us it's long COVID? Who freaking cares? He's sick. He couldn't play well. That's what mattered, and that's what was weird. Like, I don't need to know what the name of the illness is,
John,
to know. But I agree, and I am too. What's most perplexing is, like I said, is he couldn't look like himself for even 30 seconds at any point in time.
I told that.
That's what was crazy. Like last year, he played with basically a foot dangling off, and he was effective. In this ridiculous, gruesome, grisly, nobody's ever had it before injury, and he found a way to look like himself. In that game was one of the most, you want to talk about magical, Bobby, you want to bring that word back. That KP return to action was magical, legitimately.
That was the most magical thing I've ever seen.
Not Luke Cornett, 10 points, magical.
I was just going to go there, John. This is a guy who has thrived in returning from things and playing through things. That's been one of the most amazing
bleeding
things
from the head. Yeah.
Covering him over the last year and a half or 2 years is that he comes back from a 3-month absence and it literally looks like he doesn't miss a beat. Like even when he initially came back from the injury, that was a game that I was at in Brooklyn. From the illness, he comes back in mid-March. Yeah, he was awesome. And so to see that he was never for one stint able to put something together that was impactful through this illness, I do think there was a psychological component. Without a doubt, he's going through something physically, but whatever he was going through physically, he wasn't able to get through
one
mentally.
Move tonight where he made a great post move, got in position to just go right up and then turn back, twisted himself into a pretzel again, and the play was
missing
over.
Layups, missing free throws. Like I think it was a combination of the fatigue and the just not having the playoff physicality. I also think that again, there are still questions about him in the playoffs. Like I don't know that some of what we saw in Orlando. I don't know that was all the illness. Right?
I don't think it was. Maybe
and
I don't know.
So there's a lot of different layers to this. There's a lot of things going on. I think the most important thing, like you said, is his health, and like I really hope that he's able to get to the bottom of this, because there are thousands of people in America that are battling illnesses that don't know what they are and never get answers and just deal with that. And I hope that doesn't become his reality and that he's able to get some resolution. But I think that this was a confluence of both the illness and some mental barrier that he was not able to push through, and just the physicality of the playoffs in New York doing a good job on him. But just it was really unfortunate. And if you have to boil it down to like what was the number one thing of this playoffs that was surprising,
unfortunately,
we couldn't.
But
really
that's the thing. So, and that's why I don't like. I push back on the hatred. Like it's not like, guys, if he's really, really sick, we find out something later, we're gonna feel bad that we said mean things about him. It's that he's been a warrior. He's come back from stuff.
Yeah.
He played through something where every doctor and trainer was like, do not play. And he's
Yeah, all the
like,
people
nah, I'm
around
going to
him.
play. And he did it. And he was great. So, I mean, come on. Like, that's
And it was
stuff-
something I said all year, John. I
Yeah.
felt like they needed him this year. I didn't think they were going to be able to do it without him again. They effectively had to play the series without him. That was not him out there. And maybe this is hyperbole, but I feel like he was 5% of himself in
No,
the
literally,
series.
yeah.
Like, he was that bad.
That
He
was the most
that slow.
compromised I've ever seen a star player look, or like a player. Normally, you see a guy that's like half of like Jaylen. There was moments where even in the regular season, it was like, okay, he's a shell of himself, but there's still something about it that's Jaylen. This
He
was
went
like
from
just unrecognizable. It was really
borderline
astonishing.
all-star to the worst player in the NBA. Like, I mean, it's unbelievable. Never seen anything like
And you
that.
know,
So
what bums me out more than anything about this loss and this series is that this is unfortunately what I think a lot of Celtics fans are going to remember about his time here. There were the great moments, and it felt like those were going to stick, and that was going to define his tenure here. The finals game you mentioned, John, the band, like you talk about like a popularity rating or like a political like approval rating. His was at like 95% when that bandage went on his head, and he was out there at TD Garden waving around, and that was just less than a month ago. And now, we've had to talk to a lot of fans here who are frustrated, John, and I liked your point the other day that you made on that topic. I completely agree with it. There's really nothing you can do here, and it just sucks because I don't think he's going to be back, and unfortunately, this is going to be your last memory here of him in green.
It won't be his legacy, though. When it's all said
You
and
don't
done,
think so?
people remember the championship teams.
That's
They're going to
true.
remember game one of the finals. Who knows? This could be the Celtics championship for this decade, right? And everybody's going to remember whoever was a part of that. They're not going to remember.
I hope so.
They're not going to remember the year that follows. I mean, not to be like, I really do think that those contributions are going to ultimately matter more.
I just don't think he's going to have a big part of the story. He has a chapter.
No, he's a side character.
Yeah. Wow. Jeez. Damn. No.
No, but he's a good side character. It was
a way to spin it.
No, I mean, seriously,
No, but he's like a good character.
he's like Kramer. Yeah. Right.
You know what I'm saying though? Like he wasn't the
Kinda
MVP of
is
the
like
finals,
Kramer.
but
he kind of.
But he was a big. He had a nice.
Yeah.
role.
He would just like kick open the door and be like, "Hey, I'm back."
Hey, I'm going to do an
He
interview
played-
and
guys,
say
he
some
played
awesome
six
stuff.
games in the whole playoff run. I'm not
It
going
was
to say he was
unreal.
like a core piece, but
No,
the
I-
contributions that he had were very important.
I
Like,
said it a couple times going into those playoffs, John. Imagine if you said when they traded for him that he was going to play X number of games over 2 years like he did. You would have said it was a massive failure. And it actually ended up being a success to that point. And then again, through no fault of his own, ends up unavailable for this postseason run mostly here. It's just so unfortunate because that, forget his Celtics tenure, such a big part of his career is the lack of availability with him for, again, freak reasons, ACL
this is another one
tear,
that's just unrelated.
illness.
That's what sucks.
It's such a bummer, and I don't know what the next chapter is going to be for him. It doesn't feel like it's going to be here again. More than anything else, I feel pretty confident in that just because of where his contract's at and where this roster's at and all that. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I'd love to
No,
see him
he's an
back and have a
expiring.
chance of
He's-
redemption, but he's the easiest contract to move, right?
He's an expiring, and that has value. So, I mean, that's certainly something you could see it as part of a 3-team, situation where you can move some pieces around and he could go somewhere to a team that wants to take on an expiring and also get rid of money. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that you could see
How do you
happening.
feel about that?
About what?
Is there a chance he could be back?
Yeah, I think there's a chance if his value is like worse than we know that they say let's bring him back because we're literally not able to get anything. We have to give up picks or whatever, and they think that bringing him on next year, maybe trading him at some point during the season would be a smarter move. You see that
I could
happen
see that.
sometimes. So we don't know. That's the one thing that I'll say. Like we don't really know what guys' actual values are. Like we tend to have a little bit of a disconnect between what GMs are actually saying on the phone. And I'm sure we'll gather some reporting here over the next few weeks and we'll get a sense. But
like,
there's a possibility that nobody wants him
If
right
you're
now.
a GM, it's almost like malpractice to trade for Porzingis, assuming that like it depends on
Not
the
if you're
reason.
offloading, like if you're in the right position, maybe it makes sense.
There's
But
some bad money coming back to Boston. There's some,
I don't
picks
think a
maybe going out with
contender is
him.
trading for Porzingis is like the final piece right now. That's for sure.
Whether you're a contender
I
or
think
an
actually
up-and-coming
I think that's the only team that trades for him is a contender.
Really?
Like
it's tough because his availability you can't rely on.
That's what I'm
right
saying.
now.
But I mean,
Like,
I
if you're a
think
contender, why
he's
would you
a-
though?
I think it's a
he's
team that just wants to get rid of a multi-year contract or somebody that.
It's either a straight
Maybe.
salary dump or the.
But if
I'm
you're the
gonna ride out
Celtics,
1
why
year
are
of this
you
guy.
doing that?
Yeah.
But you probably won't want to do that. That's why I'm saying they might actually have some trouble reaching a deal.
But the Celtics are certainly not going to get value for either Holiday or Porzingis. These are please take the
Maybe
money
Holiday.
contracts. Like, I think at best you're not tying assets to them just to get rid of them, but for the most part, you're probably not getting anything close to
So then
proximate
why
value.
they extend Holiday?
Just what you had to do.
You didn't have to do
I'm
it.
still not sure about that.
You can't not
He had
let
a
him. You can't. You're
He
gonna
had
go
a
one and
massive
done.
player option, John.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I might
he
be
was
wrong
under,
about that.
He was gonna like.
No, he had a. He you can't let him go. You burned assets for a 1 year
All right,
rental.
you might be
I
able
guess-
to get something for him.
I guess I was assuming. Maybe I wasn't assuming that he would opt.
I don't
It's
know,
tough to
guys.
assume, Jimmy, because maybe he could have gone out and got a big deal. I don't know.
Well, we're gonna roll through a couple more super chats because I'm gonna tell you right now. Who do you think is getting most of the hatred here?
Joe Mazzulla.
Joe Mazzulla. Let's go to G Van Jot
Is
420.
that right?
Yeah, oh yeah. We will be back, but Joe needs to
I've been
learn
off
how to
Twitter.
manage
Expected that.
lineups. How to manage lineups and games
I thought
better,
it'd be
or he
Jaylen.
can go. Needs to learn some ATOs as well. Be stoic. Celtics fan for 40 plus years. Never easy watching a blowout loss this season. More unfulfilled expectations leaves a better taste. No question about it. Bass or bass rock. Jimmy and I disagree here. Can you tell
What
us?
do you guys think? It's
BASS rock.
Bass rock. Because it's kind of go together, right?
That's what Jimmy thinks.
Thank you, Bobby.
Jimmy's a music guy.
John, I agree with you
what I
almost 95% of every live Garden Report, but come on, only 3 plays, no adjustments, and FYI, there's been teams that won just on talent, and we are one of them that did. I defended Mazzulla. I took the it's the first person everyone's going to blame, but probably the least of the reasons why they lost this series, even though he didn't have a great series. But that was my take earlier on the Mazzulla stuff, though he was far from perfect.
Yeah, to me, the playoffs were tough. I don't know what happened. They got tighter rotation-wise. Their play calling flattened out quite a bit. There were some late game disasters, both in the Orlando series and in this one, in terms of late game play calling that were, they couldn't even get a shot off in a couple of those instances. I went on my big Mazzulla rant the other day, so I don't have too much more to add to that because he made the adjustments for game 5 that I liked. I like starting Luke in this one. Maybe got to Pritchard a little bit too late, but then Pritchard didn't really do anything in this game. So those 2 role guys, as we talked about, weren't saving you in this one. I don't think coaching could have saved you in this one either. There was just nothing there in this game specifically, but those first 2 games were on him. I didn't love the, we can just make shots and everything's fine thing that he did after game 1, because that was after game 1, right? Same collapse happens in game 2, essentially there. Quicker with the timeouts later in the series. The timeout's not as big of a thing for me, but I can just point to a lot of things on this run that Joe didn't do well. The reliance on the 3 that I'll go back to there that I mentioned earlier. I'm not going to kill him. I thought he had a good regular season, and that's part of what confuses and
Is
frustrates
Mazzulla
me.
the reason they lost this series, or is Mazzulla the reason
Absolutely.
that he's the reason they lost this series?
Absolutely. Yeah. I
No.
thought they completely mismanaged the first 2 games, and he didn't step in any functional way.
Huh.
It would take, I think this is just a difference in philosophy. It would take so much for a coach to do for me to ever think that the coach is the reason that
The
a
coach
series
is not worth
lost.
20 points.
It would take like something.
They missed
something
14 straight
ridiculous,
shots in
yeah.
the fourth quarter in game 2.
But I put that more on Tatum and Brown.
It feels like the players
as
shoot
much
those
as-
shots, though. If I remembered.
Especially when it's players of that caliber, with that experience. Like, I say this with all the respect in the world for those 2 guys, but like that was on them more than Joe. And again, I have a lot of qualms with Joe for this series. I don't think that I agree with most of your grievances. I think when you're ranking who is responsible ultimately here, like,
Should we
you
do
can't do
series
anything-
blame pie, John? Series blame pie.
We will. We are.
Like
We're going to
that.
do it later. We'll get to it.
Who's your biggest?
I mean, probably
Wait, you're
Porzingis.
Bobby. We're going to do it later. I just said.
Bobby, we're doing.
We
blame
literally just
pie.
said we're going to do it later.
You asked me mine.
Wilson Pilot.
Maybe we should just do it now.
Preview for next year's Celtics. If it is, though, at least we'll get more JD Davison. Also, you're all are the best post-game show on YouTube. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Wilson.
Jonathan Gutierrez, trade Drew and Hauser, Brown, KP, White, and Pritch next year. wait for Tatum to come back. That's a lot.
No, he's saying trade Drew and Hauser.
I know. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
It's just
I thought the whole list.
it read that way.
Yeah.
That's fun.
No, it's trade Drew and Hauser. Those are the two, and then keep everybody else. Make Miss League, David Rasp. Make Miss League. Health matters. Second apron realities are upon us. Yeah, that's the very simple nuts and bolts headline for what's going on right now. No question about it. Jamel, thanks for the season, fellas and lady.
Thank you, lady.
Boomer, thanks, lady.
You're welcome.
As Andre the Giant would say, hello, lady. Love you guys. Always
Boomer
look forward to
rage.
hear your takes and laughing with y'all. You guys make the losses feel a lot better.
Aw.
Thank you, Boomer Rage.
I mean, these fans, they needed us the way they used to in this series.
Someone
These,
just
like,
said
the
it.
old days.
2021 CLNS is back. Someone said that earlier.
For 2023. This
Yeah.
I said it so many times this year. Didn't this
Bubble.
year feel like 2023?
Yeah.
So many parts of it,
Yeah.
especially this was like the Miami series all over again, it felt like. And we were actually going back and forth a little bit. I was like, is this the worst we've ever seen this core play together in this game here? They went down 33 in that game 3 against Miami, and they went down, 41 in this one? So they surpassed that one by quite a bit tonight. This is the worst I've ever seen the Celtics core look in a game. They weren't there for a second.
Yeah, bad. The
The way it piled on was just out of this
Yeah.
world.
The amazing
Sumik.
thing about this game was that there was truly not a positive moment. Porzingis said it afterwards, but he was like, we didn't have a good second. And I think that
Oh,
Whoa.
got some equipment crashing and
Apologies.
burning here.
We'll do it live.
sorry.
You need a moment to collect yourself, or you back?
No,
we're
it was
good.
my fault. I kicked out my foot and
No, we got too
Apologize.
excited and kicked some
All right.
tripod.
Damn it, Amit.
All right, well, we get settled again. Couple more super chats. Be stoic, jumping back in as well. Hope podcast, drink some highballs, and forget about 3 balls. Enjoy your summer podcast till next year. Like I said, we're not going anywhere. We'll still have many more Garden Reports
We're gonna be
throughout
back
the
tomorrow.
offseason.
There's exit interviews tomorrow.
Exit interviews and another post-mortem from us tomorrow. So you'll get more. Miles Orduña, the truth is we're small and not very athletic. Without Tatum and Porzingis, there's no hiding it when we're not hot from 3. I see no lies.
Yeah, I mean,
Look, they got exposed athletically in these 2 series too, wouldn't you say?
and we said all year they're not an athletic team, and when they play up against teams that are, that is a little bit of their kryptonite. And so
You think that was part of this?
I don't look at the Knicks as like, oh my god, they're this super
especially
athletic
with
team,
the Celtics legs.
Yeah.
When they started running,
you
the
could see
Celtics
their
really
legs dying
crumbled.
in the fourth quarter too. Yeah,
Yeah.
of a lot of these games.
Physicality bothered them. The OG thing was a factor.
Physicality,
here, the
man.
Robinson thing.
physicality
Yeah,
is the issue.
They got beat up.
Yeah.
That Knicks defense though was great. I
Today they
am
were-
going to do the Knicks credit thing because
You gotta
that
do
team is
polishing
way better than I thought.
The Knicks.
Yeah,
Oh,
today
for
they.
sure. I mean, this
they
is the
did-
most
they did-
wrong I've ever been in my career by far.
Wow.
Bobby, that's saying a
And
lot.
that's
buddy.
a long list.
Hey, I was right sometimes too.
I know.
Sure you are. Sure.
Sure you were. Well, we'll pull
We'll go
up
with
the tape.
that.
Like
We'll go with that.
hey Bailey, roll the tape of when Bobby was
Roll
right.
Bobby's takes. The takes.
It's like it's just a static image not found. Jamaican
on.
boy, John. I know you don't want
You
the
got to
KP
do it in a
slander.
Jamaican accent.
Yeah, I don't want to.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
that's
It's
probably
kind of
not-
racist.
literally.
I don't
like,
want to do it,
John.
but I don't care. Since
Not
Rob Williams,
fun.
It's not
I have
fun.
no
Don't let Jimmy lead
Oh,
you there.
Jimmy's
All
going
right,
to do
Noah
it.
I have
do
no tolerance for injury-prone players, especially in playoffs. Don't bring back
Uh-oh.
2 years in a row. Third time is the charm.
I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, you can't have a super team now. There's going to be a lot of conversations about who should stay, who should go. You have to keep the most necessary players here. Like, to me, Porzingis, obviously a little bit of a luxury with the availability thing here the last couple of years. Holiday, bit of a luxury because you have Derek
Here's
White.
why Porzingis is not a luxury, because Al Horford is 140 years old and Luke Cornett's not a
true.
starting center.
But if you have a 30 million center who plays
And-
40 games, it's
And
like having
if
none
you
there.
don't, and Al Horford might cost you $5 for every dollar as well. So
Yeah.
just bringing him back for a veteran minimum is a $50 million deal. So you got to figure out who's playing for you here.
You want to
just
slide your
can't-
third center over to first center?
You
Do
you still want to do that?
I'm gonna have to
Crown
think
Luke
about
the
it.
starting center.
Speaking of being wrong, do we want to just revisit the Lucas as starting
Hey,
center take from this
Prisoner of the
48
moment
hours ago?
moment.
It's hard to draw much about anybody from
He
this
was
game, honestly.
okay. He just couldn't save them.
That's why he's on the bench, and that's why bench players. That's why this was going to be a hard game.
Hey, don't get
You
me
can't-
started with Pritchard.
I know I was preemptively defending you because I knew
But
what was coming
everybody
next.
does it. But that's why they're on the bench. If they were awesome every night, they wouldn't be bench players. That's
Hey,
how
the
it
starters,
works with
the
those
starters
guys.
that start every night also didn't bring much today.
Derek White was a minus 45. There's no question. They weren't. Yeah.
Was he really?
Yeah.
Minus
I turned off the
45.
box score at one point. I was like, I don't need to keep looking.
I
at
thought
this.
his game was among the Celtics who played.
Oh, he probably
okay,
had the
though.
best game of any Celtic,
Yeah.
which is crazy to say.
Yeah, it wasn't
He
his
just
best,
didn't
but
give up.
the numbers were
The
brutal,
numbers-
and he was trying.
Teammates
He was
failed.
trying.
He was trying.
He
That
was
play
really
where they
trying.
gave up in the second and watched the guy shoot the three, he actually got back out there and stole the ball, and he got stuffed the other way. But it was like,
He
man,
did.
that guy's the only one trying.
Yep, he did. Shakalaka Mecca Leka. Trade Holiday and expand JD role. It's gotta
JD?
happen at some point. Yeah.
Noah's burner.
Speaking
Even,
of crazy,
even I don't say stuff like that.
Okay, I
Some
wanted,
of
Pors-
the JD comments, I'm like, Bert,
I wanted a temperature check with you. If Noah's not in on
Poor's
that, I
illness
think we're
might not
good.
phase contenders.
I'm
to trade
all in
for
on
him.
giving JD another run next year, but we have to see him on the floor first before we say anything about his potential role. We haven't seen him playing that yet.
Jeevan Jot 420 from Canada. At the end of the day, the only thing I really care about is JT coming back healthy. Nothing else matters. Healthy JT can carry Joe to the Hall of Fame. Give JT his flowers. No doubt about that. I want to throw down a couple more here. Ryan Smitty, again, we just need to make the playoffs in the East next season. Not a hard assignment. JT comes back from his steamboat surgery from the games that actually matter. Should be able to make
Does that
another
mean?
run. It's just having fun with the speed bridge that nobody knew existed until 2 days ago.
Everybody loves the speed bridge right now. It's the biggest word in the country.
Solid. Yeah.
You guys are our
We've-
Speed Bridge insiders. You guys are
You
like
are.
leading the charge on Speed Bridge stuff. So
Solonomics, Nick's got the perfect storm of things going wrong with the Celtics, Pacers in 5. Thanks for the great season, guys. Love tuning in after every game. Remember the 85 team lost the finals due to Bird screwing up his hand in a bar brawl? Yes, not included in the Celtic City documentary, was it? The bar
was
fight?
that
didn't see it.
confirmed? Has it been confirmed?
Confirmed 100%. Dan Shaughnessy confirmed it, spoke to the guy. Then there was a settlement, and the guy couldn't talk about it anymore and then pretended it didn't happen. But Shaughnessy has blow-by-blow details of the fight, who swung first, what else happened, a bouncer being involved in it, what was said.
Where was
He's got
it?
the whole in a bar, during the series, during the conference finals.
In Boston?
Yeah, broke his hand hitting a guy. Thank you, Bobby. Game 1 with a timeout, tied and no play, just contested threes. Game 2 down by 1, 13 seconds left. This is
Yeah,
again,
I'm not moving off that take. I'm
Ace
sorry.
Rock.
Bass or Base Rock. Tell us who you are.
Yeah,
Tell
write
us
it
who
out.
you are.
Write it out.
Damon Crabb. The trade for KP was successful. Robin Smart only played a combined 91 games. Exactly. The last 2 years. Imagine this team with Rob and Smart. Do they win if they don't make those trades? No way, right?
No. Nope.
Who knows?
I know.
No way.
I think they needed Holiday last year. I felt that way all along.
And Porzingis. Porzingis was a cheat code all year long. It was like, I can't believe this is the team now. We forget so quickly what a special element he added to this team all over the place, offensively, defensively. It's crazy. TMNT Guy 55. Celtics forever. Bobby Manning forever. Yes.
Whoa.
Jonathan, frustrating to
Thanks
see
for the
2-hour Knicks celebrations. Jonathan Perrault, thanks for the great season, y'all. How do you think they go about wing depth going forward? We'll get into that in a minute. David Andrews, Joseph, what does this loss do for Tatum's value among fans? We'll talk about that too. What's this say? Isho Trahim?
Yes.
Good season, y'all. Can we stop comparing first option JB with D White as number 2 and Cornette as to a 3? To first option JT with JB and number 2 healthy KP. Yeah, just saying everyone's got to step up a notch when people go down and play a little bit beyond their role. I saved this one for last, but Derek throwing down 100 spot here.
Thank you.
Thanks for the post-game shows and coverage. I've felt worse, to be honest. LeBron 2018, Warriors 2020, Heat 2023. Agree. Worse losses, worse ends to the season than this one for sure. We could see this one coming. It was inevitable. Tough luck. We're going to read all of Derek's $100 super chat, and then we're going to comment. So hold on one second. Tough loss, but I'm glad we won on Wednesday. Captured number 18, new owner, no Tatum. Can't wait to see the offseason moves. It's Brad Summer. Pacers in 4.
It's
lots of thoughts.
Everybody, the Celtics fans are so loving Pacers in 4, Pacers in 5 right now.
Surprised they're not sending the Knicks on with some.
We went from Brat Summer to Brad Summer. I kind of love it.
Oh yeah, it was Brat. Now it's Brad. Totally. So go ahead, guys. Your thoughts on all of it?
Did you do Brat Summer?
No, it was interesting because Jaylen said afterwards that it stung more to lose now because of they were pursuing going back to back, which was so special. I think that maybe that's true for him. I don't think it captures how the fans feel. I mean, fans can speak for themselves, but from what I've sensed, I think once you win one, it does give you a little bit of breathing room. Like everybody was so eager to see one title and understanding like how difficult it is to go back to back. I'm sure that there were some tempered expectations, especially after Tatum went down, that I saw a lot of people after game 5 saying like, I'm kind of at peace with what happens now. They gave it a really nice effort. I don't know if that captures most people, but
that's tough for me. I get it. I get the thinking there, but we've said it a couple of times now. You were down 3-1 when Tatum got hurt.
Yeah.
They blew it bad in the series. They had enough. They were monumental favorites.
But they weren't winning it with this.
20.
They weren't winning it. They weren't winning
it. Yeah,
but
you got to get through this round and see what happens.
But they weren't. Maybe. But I think we were resigned to. Look, we said it. We said
they should have won the series.
Yeah, but then it gets harder and harder.
Last year,
we said it with 3-4 weeks left in the season. This Jaylen injury could be the thing that derails them. Then you threw KP on top of it. Even if Tatum doesn't get hurt, they were a mess. They were a mess. You know, even before Tatum, as Jimmy said, down 3-1, and Brown physically limited, and KP was useless. Like that, I don't think they had the horses this year. I think fans
and you can go further down the list.
It.
Like the JB thing was ominous. The KP thing that started in March, then you're like, whoa, this is weird. Holiday was beat up for a lot this year. That he was tremendous in the playoffs. He turned it around big time. And then you go into the bench guys like Hauser was not there and not right for a lot of this year, and then gets hurt in this round. Xavier Tillman just disappeared from November on.
Do you think Holiday was tremendous in the playoffs?
I think so. Maybe not his usual self, but he gave you a lot. Even tonight, I thought he was one of their more fierce competitors in those early minutes. He did what he could, I thought. The defense on Towns, the defense on Paolo last series. He got hurt, though.
Yeah, I don't know how much the injury limited him. I thought defensively he was awesome, but I feel like he has another gear offensively that he was able to get to in last postseason, and he wasn't able to get there this year.
I think that's part of the story.
They probably needed him twice as bad as they did last year, which was the bummer. Like tonight, they needed him to have a big night.
I don't think he has that other gear offensively anymore, and that's another reason he's probably a bit of a luxury now.
Yeah, I don't know. You're going to be worse without Drew Holiday. You're just going to cost.
You're going to be worse without all these guys.
Holiday,
yeah,
steady, man. That's what you need in the playoffs. Steady.
Yeah, like guys, let's not say get rid of these. Getting rid of these guys means just not having them. It doesn't mean trading them for things that are going to be better. People have to understand what this means. Like when you're getting rid of Holiday and or Porzingis, you're just simply no longer having those players. You're not replacing them with better players. So you're going to be worse for not having Holiday, even if he's 90% of what he was last year and 80% of what he was 2 years ago next year. It's still a really good basketball player that makes your team better. So I don't know why people are like, get rid of him, got to trade this guy. It's going to make you worse.
They just have to. And, there was probably some debate. There was probably some leeway if you win a championship here, right? But you lose in the second round and you don't have Tatum for most, if not all of next year. You got to get below that second apron line. You got to get below that tax line. That's going to hurt. It's going to hurt bad.
Yep. A couple more super chats came in while we were talking. With good times come from Must31. With good times come the bad. Thank you, CLNS crew, for always being there. Thank you so much. TMNT guy 55 again. I met
Ninja Turtle guy.
I met Noah in Faneuil Hall before playoffs. They called security on me because she was a celebrity. LOL. Does that sound well?
No, you had security.
I have no idea what this is about.
Sounds like you called security on the poor guy.
I did not call security.
Your
Probably
favorite
did.
Scorpio wants to know, will John finally eat a vegan brownie? Only by accident. But yeah.
I had some great vegan brownies this week.
Really?
By coincidence. First time since we
Uh-huh.
had that whole shtick on the show.
So is it made with like avocado? Like how is it done?
No, it's made with chocolate.
Yeah, but what's the ingredients?
I'll give you one to try.
All right, that's fair.
You don't
I'll
need
try
to
it,
know.
John.
Okay.
I had some vegan.
really-
The good news
It's
is
pretty good.
the good news is
Oh
now
yeah,
that
Bobby had plant-based chicken today.
Plant-based
vegan
sushi.
chicken.
It was good stuff.
Why do we call it that?
chicken is not
What do you mean?
chicken?
It mimics the taste and texture of chicken.
Okay.
Uh,
Gregory Alexander, really love y'all. Thanks for a
Hey,
great
Noah.
season. Heart Bobby. Keep D White.
A lot of love for me tonight. This is great.
I
I've been
know.
waiting for
This
this.
is very
I know.
confusing.
I know. It's a lot of emotions coming out.
Very confused.
And Gregory Alexander, you kind of wonder why the team couldn't be the team they were on Wednesday, play like that, guys. So why do you guys think? Look, I think it is tough to repeat. You had a magical Cornette game. You had Pritchard playing
Magical.
39 minutes, and all of that stuff. You had Jaylen Brown with 12 assists and looking at like a really locked in version of himself, despite being physically limited there. And, that would have been that was one of his better games, period. That would have been tough to repeat just simply because even if you're a great player, it's hard to stack together games as good as the one that Jaylen played in game 5. So there's going to be a lot of reasons you're going to have a tough time repeating and you're on the road. But what do you think, guys, was the main reason why this looked so much different than last game? Because we haven't spent a lot of time on the game.
I just don't think you had guys who could get paint touches and at least make plays out of there. They did not generate any advantages in this series. They really didn't.
I thought the biggest difference between tonight and game 5 wasn't the Celtics, it was the Knicks. The Knicks brought it to another level in this one. When I rewatched game 5, I was very underwhelmed by the Knicks defense and kind of the Knicks effort in just execution and things. So that to me was a bigger difference than anything the Celtics did. And then obviously you just had nobody really had it. And unfortunately, those nights happen. And I think I didn't look at it and say, Drew Holiday actually sucks because he couldn't make any of his shots. And Derek White actually, like, everything that he's done before doesn't, this doesn't illegitimize like my view on a lot of these players, but you can't have 7 guys have a bad game at the same time. And I do think like there were some individual struggles, but credit to New York. Like their defense was awesome in this game and their offense was awesome too. And the rebounding was probably the biggest difference because even early on, New York wasn't hot. And New York was getting like half of their available offensive rebounds. At a certain point of the game, that was literally what it was. They were rebounding 50% of their missed shots. And so, that's a New York thing. That's a Celtics defensive rebounding issue that kind of lingered throughout this playoffs, but they were more the difference maker to me than anything the Celtics did.
And I'll do the Jaylen thing. We talked about it last game, right? I feel good about him leading them in the next year. I want him to lead them in the next year. But this is the challenge, right? You have one phenomenal game in game 5. You do all the right things. And then I like the aggressiveness early. And again, I'll put up with some of the sloppiness out of reason for aggressiveness, but then it just got out of control. And the moment in the corner was truly baffling. Wide open, caught a pass, just waited 4-5 seconds for Robinson to close out and trap him in there and got stuck and turned it over. I don't know what happened there. And that was the ball game right there. That play to me.
That's everybody on press row in that moment was like, that was the play that kind of solidified this one. There was about 100 of those, but that was a big one.
He had a really rough game.
Jaylen?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean that's what I get confused by because like that everyone's like Jaylen at least showed up tonight. I mean, I guess, but like
I don't think so.
Defensively, he was not what he was the night before. He made some shots early, which kept him alive a little bit. 7 turnovers, dumb fouls, those 3 consecutive fouls there in the third quarter.
It almost looked like he wanted to foul out at a point.
That's what I said. I tweeted. I was like, he's tapping out right now. Like
I think.
Yeah.
You know what though? Again,
he ejected himself. Yeah.
I thought he struck the right tone after the game though. Like projecting some hope going forward, talking to the fans, saying, "Yeah, I know you're feeling hopeless right now. Next year doesn't look great, but there's still some reason for optimism here." And that is how I feel going into next year. They're going to lose some really important stuff here. I think there's going to be some major doom and gloom, projections for them. But I think they're going to be able to, again, I got to see what the roster is going to look like here. But with Jaylen, with Derek, with Horford back, hopefully, a couple of the core parts coming back here, and obviously some key ones going out, they're going to be in the playoffs next year. And it's going to be an uphill battle. It'll be competitive when you get there. But maybe they develop something over the course of next season. Maybe there's some players on this team who we're not thinking of right now. I'm really not in a doom and gloom tank space when I look ahead to next year.
The East is still kind of open.
They're better than 8 teams. I can rattle off 8 teams right now. They're going to be better than.
Yeah.
I don't know, guys.
I think they will be.
No Tatum, and you sell off another piece to get under the tax. Good luck.
They're going to be good, John.
Play-in territory.
Play-in territory?
Depends what the
For
sell-off.
sure.
No way.
Depends on the sell-off.
Yeah. If you trade out, if you trade 1 or 2, if you don't re-sign Horford, and you trade,
that's where it gets a little scary.
And you trade either Holiday or Porzingis, and without Tatum, you are the 9th best team in the Eastern Conference. I'm sorry, that's a massive.
Right now, not knowing what's going to happen in the offseason because we have no way of knowing. Right now, if you had to guess, you see this team being a play-in team next year.
If you rolled it back and spent all the money, well, yeah, of course.
We don't know what's going to happen. I'm saying right now, as you sit here, you're just a Celtics fan, and you're trying to figure out what this team's going to look like. That's where you're at.
I think the
Milwaukee might lose Giannis.
I think the safe
Brooklyn.
assumption is you're trading either Holiday or Porzingis, so you're going to be down one player there, and I don't see how you can re-sign Horford and still stay below that second apron. So you're potentially losing 2 core players and Tatum. You're telling me that's a top 6 team? Oh my God, I don't think so. So it's gonna be a challenge. Could they? Yeah. Are they assured it? No, I think the odds would be stacked against them. Not saying they couldn't get there, but that's a challenge.
I just think of all the teams at the bottom of the East right now: Washington, Charlotte, Brooklyn, Philly's in complete flux. There's obviously a few who are going to rise here. Milwaukee's probably going to sink if Giannis moves on. Again, I can get to 8 pretty easily here. That I feel pretty good about them being better than there. And maybe that is playing territory. Orlando's going to be better.
I think if what I'm saying happens, if you trade one piece, don't re-sign Horford, play without Tatum all year, you're as likely to miss the playoffs completely as you are to enter, as to go in the top 6. I could see a lot of different outcomes, but I would not be shocked if they literally finished 11th. I really wouldn't, or finished 5th or 6th. It's all within the realm of possibility. But if I had to bet, I would bet play-in territory. Let me ask you guys, because a lot of people are talking about it here. Is Joe Mazzulla a lock to return next year?
Yes.
As long as Brad's the GM.
Because am I wrong here? In his first year, in his interim year, he had the interim tag removed and got a 3-year extension beyond that year. So next year is year 3 of that extension, correct?
I don't know for certain.
Year 1, he wins the title. Year 2, if the reporting was correct, because Shams reported it back then, he got a 3-year extension in February of his first year as an interim.
Yep, that makes sense.
So that if that's correct, that means next year is his contract year, which means they have to sign him or they have to extend him or fire him this offseason. Which one happens? You're not going into the season with him as a lame duck coach, most likely. Unless we're wrong and there's a year on top of that, in which case there's no decision to be made. But if this is the last year of his contract, you have a decision to make right away.
Yeah, I'm extending him. I think he's one of the best coaches in the league.
You can just extend a coach. It means absolutely nothing. So, yeah, go ahead. Extend him.
You can if you've got a $280 million tax bill and you're a new owner and you don't want to just frivolously throw away money on a guy that you're not certain you want around.
Are they guaranteed? I mean, are they all? We don't know the terms of the deal, though.
You think he's one of the best coaches in the league, but then you really
3-14
on him. So you're just disappointed in his performance.
I'm just disappointed
because of how much respect you have for him.
Well, again, a lot of the frustration I had with the series from him was you developed.
Noah's good at telling us what we actually mean.
I'm asking.
You did all
but you're good at that.
Things.
What you meant to say was.
Remember the debate we had?
I'm just confirming what the reports that I'm hearing.
Remember the debate we had throughout the year? Are they better than last year? And I was like, I guess. That was a lot of coaching stuff that they did. Remember, they tried every lineup. They brought up all these guys off the bench. You thought you had all this flexibility. And I'm just staring there tonight, John, and I'm looking at the bench. And I'm just like, none of these guys can do anything. Tillman, Craig, Shireman, Walsh.
You stayed ready, though.
Yeah,
Really?
there was no one staying ready this year.
I mean, they did stay ready, but they would never actually call the
And then he was phasing out Hauser at times. He phased out Pritchard inexplicably multiple times in the series. Cornette couldn't
Wait,
get
Bobby,
on the court.
this is part of your I want to extend Joe Mazzulla.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I have to just, but
Yeah, wait,
again, it's
did you
because
just
have
flip
so much
yourself?
respect for him that you're disappointed in how he handled the
He was
series.
great all year. I don't know what happened. Dude, how much did we praise Joe this year, John? You were like, he's not rigid anymore. He's so flexible. He can do all this different stuff.
This year. Yeah.
And I don't know where that went in the play. Like, I know the playoffs, things tighten up a little bit and you got to make some tough decisions, but man, things got really tight for him in this series. And I was so wrong about this series. I thought they had a major coaching mismatch and Tibbs coached circles around him. It was unreal.
And so what do you want to give him? 3
Noah?
years, 4 years, 5 years? What do you want to give him?
What are you doing with what are you doing with Joe?
I'm extending Joe.
Yeah.
I'm extending Joe. I mean, listen, what I've learned about the NBA is that everybody's going to get fired. He'll get fired eventually. I don't think this is the moment that
You know what
he's gonna
makes
get
me
fired.
feel best about him is the
That's how I
guys
feel,
still
Noah.
buying into his message. All the weird stuff, all the messaging, you're
Yeah.
always hearing them repeat it. They're always playing the way he wants. Buy-in's the ultimate thing, right?
I think next year, though, like you say, so John, you expect this team to be a play-in team. I think, depending on how this roster ends up, maybe that'll be a lot of people's expectations. He's going to have a very different situation than what we've seen. The first 2 seasons, it was championship or bust. It was 60 wins or bust. It was no room for error. A team with so much talent that really, why are you getting in the way, was the perception. And I think next year it's going to be very different. It's going to require a little bit more humility with us, I think, in a way, because they're probably going to lose a lot more games than we're used to. It's going to be, more of a player development or trying out different guys because they're not going to have the depth most likely. So right now we know him as like, what does he look like as a 60-win coach? It's different to coach a 60-win team than to coach a team that has a flawed roster. So a lot of what we know about him, we're going to learn a lot next year. And we see it all the time in the league. A guy that might be really good for a certain situation just doesn't fit.
Didn't he joke that he was born on third base or something?
He did joke about that a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
Right now you have no reason to think there's something better out there. I would be astonished. That could be perhaps the most shocking offseason move for me would be.
They need to add to the
firing Joe
staff.
Mazzulla.
I think
That
he
would be
needs.
shocking.
I think he needs some better assistant coaches. I know we had that conversation after 23, but again, you lose Lee, you lose Van Gundy upstairs. You lost a lot of stuff off that bench.
I
over the
mean,
last year or two
Here's
here.
the thing, guys, too.
If you need a ton of experienced assistants, are you a great coach?
Every coach needs help. Every coach has blind spots, and again, for him, I think so much of it is the offense and the spacing and all that too. And I like some of the defensive philosophies as well, but I just think as much experience as you can get alongside you helps, and different perspectives and all that as well. I don't think it's any mistake that loaded staff last year had that seamless season where they were so great.
It is true that I think people underrate on the outside that it's not just one coach. We see these guys all the time. There are so many components to a coaching staff. And so the head coach will take all the blame or all the praise. And that's kind of how, and they're also the only one that formally speaks to the media. So that kind of exacerbates it. But it is true that he lost key pieces, and that can make a massive difference behind the scenes that will never really get communicated to the public in a way.
But here's
we're not
the
really
other
allowed to
thing.
talk
You guys,
How do you feel about him, John?
Jimmy's going. Jimmy,
Go ahead,
say
Jimmy.
one damn thing, please. Okay.
How do you feel about him, Jimmy?
Well, no, what I was going to say was what everyone needs to remember or realize is that this isn't really a desirable place to coach next year. So where is this coach coming from? Who's this coach? I'm being serious. I'm being
No,
serious.
I know. Yeah.
This is actually a great extra
There's
season
one
for
big reason.
Mazzulla to Noah. I don't know if you saw on Monday.
Did you hear
Jason
what
Tatum
happened on Monday?
blew out
Okay,
his Achilles.
you're still coaching the Boston Celtics, and
Okay,
it's still
okay,
not
that's great. But if
way
you're an
worse
established
job in the NBA.
Sure, but
All
if
right.
you're an established coach in the league, like you're not jumping to come over and
No, I get
coach.
what you're saying, Jimmy.
Like it's just these coaches might all want this job a year from now. Let me put it that way, right? When Tatum's maybe back and maybe they have a little bit more idea of what the roster is going to look like. Mazzulla might be the best coach to coach this team next year, and then you might actually get a really good idea of the type of coach he is. Because we said it earlier, we're not really
And
sure.
he can evolve.
Right. But he is actually going to be tasked with having to make more decisions and find more things that work because he isn't going to have a team that's the best team on paper to start the season. So maybe you will get a good idea, and maybe he proves that he is worthy of remaining the coach, or maybe he proves that he was, given a great roster, and now without one, he's not maybe the coach that people thought he was.
You know what makes me feel so good about him, Jimmy, is look at how good they've been when they've been missing guys, missing 2 guys, missing 3 guys. Again, the way they utilized the bench in the regular season was awesome. And I think he gave them a great chance to win in a lot of games that we looked at and were like, oh, they're probably losing this one because of rest and injury. So I love all that stuff. There's like 10 reasons I can rattle off that I feel good about him. And again, you guys know I'm as tough on him as anyone.
The number one, the things we see or the things fans get annoyed with really almost never have anything to do with whether or not a coach is well received or not. It's silly. He didn't call a timeout. They shot too many threes. They came out flat. Most of those things don't have anything to do with the coach. And also they're really flat. They're really simple things. So like, or he doesn't call enough play. He has them ready to play. They believe in his philosophy, and anything short of a mutiny, you really don't get rid of coaches. You get rid of coaches when they've lost the room or when they fumble the bag so badly where you're like, it's so obviously just malpractice. That's not what went on here. You can have, well, I could have done this differently, could have done that differently, the same way a player can. Coaches aren't infallible. You have good series, you have bad series. People are going to point a lot of fingers, but again, you might not love Joe. You might have thought he's had a 50% blame pie, 60% for this year. It doesn't matter. Unless he's lost the guys in the room, the ability to communicate with them and them to go out and play for him. They hate each other. They don't want to show up. There's infighting. It's really not a reason to get rid of him.
Jaylen got asked tonight about
the other one is if the organizational philosophy doesn't jive, they want one thing and he refuses to do it and he's doing his thing. That's another place where you run into it when you don't have support from Brad or ownership.
And I do think Brad loves him.
And Brad loves him. So it's nuts to think that there's something about Joe Mazzulla that they want to move on from because we haven't seen that yet. We haven't seen it yet. I'm throwing in this super chat because it's about Joe Mohelmy. I was very disgusted listening to Joe answer the question about whether the Celtics lose big leads in the series. He did not take responsibility for not making enough adjustments during those runs. I'm going to rattle off a couple more. You guys can comment on that. Hard to repeat in this league. Great show, folks. These have some work to do next season. Be interesting indeed. MSG is an old dump, by the way. I love Madison Square Garden. That's from Dancing Dog 60. I love it.
Did you guys like it there? Did you guys, what was the atmosphere?
Hold on, Jimmy. Let me rattle through 2 more. I just want to get them done. Thanks to the crew for a fun year and your hard work and sacrifice for our entertainment. That's from House Cat.
Thanks, House Cat.
Richter 1605 thinks Noah is pretty. And Mo Helmy coming back. Hi, guys. I'm very disgusted listening to Joe answer the question about what? Didn't you just do that? He did it. He paid $30 for this one. He wanted to say it again.
So I
we'll read it. He's got to read it.
Jay Cancel Roman to a great season. Y'all made tough times better on a weekly basis. Thanks for what y'all do. Thank you. I'll put up Mo's comment and you guys can comment on it. We talked about it a little bit. Joe needs some better demeanor and just for his own self-preservation, not because it affects how effective he is with the players, but he could use a little bit more chill, with some of this stuff, and he could comport himself a little bit better in some of these media settings just to deflect some of the fan anger. I don't know if it necessarily has anything to do with his ability to do his job vis-a-vis the players.
Yeah, that was a tough one for him tonight, and he had an idea of what he wanted to say after this game, and it didn't matter what we were going to ask him. I think he wanted to show his gratitude toward the players for their efforts, and he said they didn't get it done and all that. They went through some hard times this year. We all understand that. But the one pertinent question, probably wasn't the only one, but I thought it was the most pertinent question to him after this game was the fact that they blew badly those first 2 games. I believe it was Jared. He didn't have a good answer for it. I don't remember what he said exactly, but he just mostly shook it off and stayed in the tone that he did for this entire post game, which was, it was tough. We gave it a good effort, and I love these guys. And that's all fine and good. I understand that. And this is an off season where they're probably going to split up to some degree here, but there had to be some responsibility for the failure that this was. I think it was easy for him to be able to paint it as all injuries and this was a tough year and there were a lot of hurdles. And listen, he forecasted in many ways that this was going to be hard. But again, this is a brutal, brutal series loss. They should not have lost this series.
All right, well, let's do it then. Let's do it. Ready?
Do it.
Hit it. You know what we're going to do. What are we going to do?
Well, I thought about just leaving,
She
and
thought
then
about
you guys came
disappearing.
back, and I just wouldn't be here.
Noah, think about it like this. This is the last blame pie
Noah's
of the
Noah's the best at this because she's been writing it down just in case we call on it. But it's series blame pie, Noah. So let's give it a crack. What do we got?
Series blame pie. Not tonight's game. The series.
Want me to start?
Yeah, you can start.
I got the hard job here starting, but
all right.
You guys know how I feel. I do think it's 40 on Joe. I think a significant share of, the first 2 games out of 6 there, I think fall on him. And then game 4 was really a difficult night for him too, I thought. So as much as almost half the series makes me go 40 for Joe. Those were rough nights for him. And I don't put it on him tonight. This was just a team that wasn't ready to play this game. So I'm going to go 40 Joe. I don't want to screw this up. So I'll probably go 20. I'll go 25, Jason. Those shots in game 1 were just awful.
Okay, we're
the
at
approach down the
65.
stretch, slowing it down rather. From there, I'll go 20 Jaylen.
So you're at
A
85.
rough Jaylen one tonight. He really saved them in game 5, so I'll go a little less on him there. So that's what, Jimmy?
85.
He's checking with Jimmy.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll-
I think
Yeah, right. That's when you know you're in trouble.
That's you're fucked.
you're at
I'll go-
72. Yeah,
Jimmy,
yeah.
how am I doing? Fuck, great,
I like
Bobby.
playing on my
Keep going,
card
kid.
here.
Yeah.
I'll go 10 Porzingis. I don't want to put too much on him, but
Why?
you judge a guy if he gets out there, and you do have to judge what he did, and it wasn't much here in this series. But I'm going to give him a major benefit of the doubt with the illness there. That leaves me with 5. Remaining 5, I'll throw at the rest of the bench just not even being able to get out there, especially as injury struck.
I'm not going to
Yeah,
break
I'm-
it all perfectly down.
Yeah.
I'll just say general buckets. I'll do 10% for Joe, and then I'm going to do 30 for Jaylen, 30 for Jason, 30 for KP, and
Good job.
10.
Okay.
And that doesn't mean it's not perfect because obviously it's a full team effort and it's a full team when you win and a full team when you lose, and other guys could have played better. But just generally capturing my sentiments here, those are your 3 stars. I felt like your role players did enough, generally speaking. Tatum's it's hard to put blame on him now that he's recovering from an Achilles rupture, but in those first 4 games, especially the first 2, felt like he just didn't do enough as their hub.
All right.
Jaylen, besides for game 5, I felt like he didn't do enough. Defensively, he had a level that he could reach that we've seen in the past that he didn't get to. KP for obvious reasons. And I'll just asterisk, I don't think Jaylen or KP were themselves health-wise. So I hate to blame KP for
all right.
being sick, but yeah.
Computer is dying out there, so we're gonna wrap this quick. Jimmy, give us yours quick.
All right, 20 for Joe, 30 for Brown. That's 50.
Wow.
I'm going to go 25 for Tatum. That's 75. And I'm going to go 25 for Porzingis because and again, I hope that he makes a full recovery and I hope that we're watching Porzingis be Porzingis, but at the end of the day, it was a huge issue, and so he has to take blame.
All right, I'm gonna go 60% injuries because I think without the injuries they win the series. I think without the injuries, everything else that deserves blame in it.
We all think that.
I
then
know
I'm-
you could do 60% injuries. I'm
We
gonna
know you
Can't
could
put
just
injuries in a
I'm gonna start
pie.
blaming the weather.
Yeah.
The traffic.
60% injuries because no matter everything else
This is
that
the
I'm
worst
going to
pie
give
ever.
blame to would not have mattered if they weren't hurt. I'm going to give I'll give 10% to Joe That's 70. I'll give 20% to Tatum for not single-handedly stopping the bleeding in games 1 or 2 and playing like an idiot in those ones. He could have absolutely just been
It feels
better.
so hard to slander him right now in his current state.
I
even
know,
though it was
but if he
before.
just
You gotta balance those two things.
didn't do
I
it,
know.
and then 10% Bobby for his ridiculous prediction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
felt
like
the
that
first
too.
team.
We should put Bobby on apology cam to end the show.
Okay, KP loses 5% and I give it to Bobby.
All right, that's fair.
So that's it. Computer is dying. I want to ask you guys one question. Last question. Just give people a little bit of hope. The Celtics interviewed projected #1 pick Cooper Flagg at the draft combine.
No.
People are having a ball with this one.
Ooh, I like that.
What are the chances that Cooper Flagg is going to be a Celtics next year, and how certain are you of it?
This puts you in position to sign him in 7 years. So look forward to that.
Would you trade Tatum for Cooper Flagg right now?
You handle yourself as a professional franchise.
Yeah.
I think the Mavs have said there's nothing that would prevent them from picking Flagg.
I get it.
Well,
Wink.
they were gifted him by the NBA.
But the conspiracy theory is that he pulls an Eli Manning or an Eric Lindros or one of those. I'm not playing for these teams, and you can't force your way to a team drafting 28th though, or wherever the Celtics are. So that's going to be challenging. But yeah, it gave the fans a little hope. That's all. That's
What could he do? Go to college? I don't even know if he can do that.
Yeah,
I think he's going to Dallas.
Celtics it is. Anyway, guys, we do want to say once again, thank you guys very much for joining us here on the Garden Report. This is our final game broadcast, but the show is far from over. We will have a lot of offseason stuff. We have to give a special shout out to Noa in her first full year on the broadcast. Elevated the show in her first year, and hopefully not her last year on the show.
Noah, tell us you'll be back. Tell us you'll be back. I have a bunch.
I will definitely be back.
I have a bunch of.
This was so fun. I thoroughly enjoyed being a part of the show. Thank you guys for welcoming me. Maybe in the off season, I'll learn a little bit more of the lore.
Okay.
You know, like
study up
a little bit about some of the bad takes you guys have had over the years.
Start with John's Derek White.
Yeah.
Oh no! How about this?
I'll get into archives.
Yeah.
Start with in the early days of the show, John was the optimist and Bobby was the naysayer.
Really?
Is that true?
You're the
Remember, every series in the playoffs, I'm like, they're gonna murder this team, and Bobby's like, they're so good. Toronto's so good, and I thought they would kill the Heat. Yeah, I was bullish on everything Celtics, and you were like, no, Toronto.
John, I think as the year progressed, I started agreeing with you more on things.
I'm not that unreasonable.
You're not that
really
unreasonable.
not. I'm not.
John,
I'm not.
Let's toss a merch graphic up there. We have.
We might.
We have
Are we really going to put a friggin' 10 more promo on this thing? This is embarrassing, Jimmy.
I guess we technically do have to. Yeah, the promo code
10
is
more
still live.
plus 6
10
next
more.
year.
What we'll do is we'll keep the promo code live throughout the weekend. If you guys want to get the new logo T-shirt, Noah's front and center on it. So she just confirmed she's sticking around, so that logo is going to be good for another season. Well, you just might be sick of us, which is fair.
Yeah,
but we wouldn't.
I'll
let
enjoy
you
the
go.
offseason.
Wouldn't let you go that easily.
ESPN, NBC, there's other people could come knocking. You never know. But anyway, thank you to Jimmy for driving that merch store stuff. Thank you to Bobby and Noah, our indefatigable reporters out there in the field taking midnight buses. Amit sleeping upright in a closet last night because we couldn't get a second bed, I don't think. And going back and forth. Rich LeMay also, who put in a lot of work on the road and throughout the season with the terrific social media stuff. Bailey Kennedy joined us late, but his contribution has been considerable here, manning the studio controls behind the scenes. Of course, owner and founder Nick Gelso, somewhere somewhere in the chat. Yeah, always, none of this is possible without Nick. Thanks to Jimmy and everybody else who's contributed to the Garden Report throughout the course of the season. Of course, thanks. Sherrod couldn't be here tonight, but no one's better than Sherrod. You know that. Lots more stuff here on CLNS Media. Please subscribe. You got Noah's podcast. You got Boston. You got Bobby Manning as well. Writing for CLNS Media. There'll be more stuff tomorrow. Exit interviews. These poor bastards have to race back to the Arbeck Center for 1 p.m. press conferences. Yeah.
Yeah.
we'd be more mad if they didn't have them. But yeah, you got to get back. So Got to get back. So we're going to stream those live tomorrow. So we'll be back with that. I'm not trying to make you guys cry, but we will stream those live, and we'll have shows afterwards as well. And we'll kind of get some more, maybe there's some more clarity on some of the stuff going on now that now that the season is over and they can talk about it. So, and as Irene would say, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on your notifications. We're not going anywhere, even though this season is over. Celtics fall to the Knicks. The season is over. They failed to repeat as champions. This has been the Garden Report. We will see you guys all back here.
Thank you, guys.
Tomorrow. Thanks, everyone. No one's sneaking a vegan brownie by me, I'll tell you that.
Okay, you know what, John? We're going to do it.
You have to feel that way too, Bobby.
I have to feel that way.
Let's
Slide Al over and make Luke your first center.
Bobby, we gave you Luke hour early. We're not going to end this on a damn conversation about Luke